Have you ever stood beneath a sky so vast, so still, that it almost felt like the stars themselves were listening? What if I told you that each of those lights above carries a story older than time, a rhythm older than the first civilizations, a message waiting to be understood? Imagine for a moment that the very secrets of the universe, the hidden order behind day and night, had been written down long before humans learned to measure hours, days, or seasons. What if someone had walked this earth with the knowledge of those secrets, able to see the patterns that escape our hurried eyes today? Take a deep breath and let the night wrap around you. The world is slowing. The busy hum of modern life, deadlines, screens, obligations, endless schedules, softens in this moment. Stress, fatigue, the subtle chaos of everyday existence seem to drift further away as the quiet stretches above. And yet, even in the middle of this stillness, one might wonder, how did ancient people find balance in a world with no clocks, no glowing screens, no calendars neatly printed in books? How did they learn to live in harmony with the skies? Somewhere in the distant past, a man named Enoch walked beneath the same stars. He was ordinary in many ways, mortal, human, with fears and doubts, much like our own, yet he carried an openness that allowed him to witness something extraordinary. He was chosen to observe the hidden rhythms of the heavens, guided by luminous beings who revealed the intricate paths of the sun, the moon, and the stars. The Book of Luminaries, preserved in ancient Ethiopia, captures these revelations, detailing cycles of light and shadow, the movement of celestial bodies, and the sacred patterns meant to guide human life in alignment with heaven itself. Picture it now. The night air is cool and still. The sky stretches endlessly, scattered with points of light that glimmer like distant fires, each one moving in ways both predictable and mysterious. Imagine standing on the earth, silent and small, while above, the heavens follow their grand design, unchanged by human impatience. The stars trace their paths, the moon flows through its phases, and the sun rises and falls in steady arcs. These motions carry lessons older than the oldest stone or the first spoken word, lessons that Enoch observed and recorded so that they might endure long after he had gone. What if, tonight, you could feel that same calm, that same connection to a rhythm far greater than your own? Consider how differently our lives move today. We chase minutes, measure success by productivity, and often lose ourselves in the constant hum of activity. Many of us feel out of sync, as though we have forgotten the natural pulse that once guided every human step. And yet, the heavens remain constant, their silent guidance available to any who pause to notice. Now imagine multiple possibilities unfolding in your mind. What if these celestial patterns could guide not only your understanding of time, but also your inner balance, your sense of peace? What if the stars and moon were not just distant points of light, but gentle teachers, each with a role in a story that stretches back to the beginning? What if Enoch's experience of seeing this order firsthand could somehow whisper to us even today, if only we listen closely enough? The Book of Luminaries is not a text of abstract theory or distant prophecy. It is a record of observation, a map of the heavens that links the sun's journey with the seasons, the moon's phases with sacred times, and the stars' movements with the passing of years. It shows how time itself can be measured with care, attention, and reverence. And in understanding it, humans could find not just knowledge, but a quiet harmony, the same stillness you feel now as you breathe, the same calm that falls over the earth when night is complete. Think about the first time you looked up and noticed the moon glowing above? Have you felt the gentle pull it exerts on the world, the way it rises and falls, always following a rhythm, always returning? Or the stars, seemingly so far away, yet fixed in place, each one marking the passage of nights, decades, centuries? These were the details Enoch was taught to see, to understand, and to preserve. Through the Book of Luminaries, he offered a guide to aligning human life with these cycles, a reminder that the universe itself carries a natural order, one that can ease the unrest of the soul if we choose to notice. Perhaps now, as you listen, your own thoughts begin to slow. The restless pace of the day softens. The rush of obligations becomes a distant echo. You feel the gentle weight of night pressing softly around you, inviting reflection. And in this quiet, you may catch a sense of the same wonder that gripped Enoch so long ago, the realization that light and time move with intention, that every moment has its place, and that harmony is not lost, only waiting to be rediscovered. So let yourself sink a little further into this calm. Let the stars above draw your attention, one by one, as if each were a note in a quiet symphony. Let the moonlight trace soft lines across your thoughts, and know that the journey you are beginning is not hurried. The Book of Luminaries itself is patient, its lessons unfolding slowly, just as night unfolds in gentle arcs over the world. If this quiet journey into the heavens has touched you, remember to subscribe to continue exploring these ancient stories. And I would love to hear from you in the comments. Share your name, the city you are watching from, and what time it is where you are experiencing this calm night tonight. We stand together beneath the quiet sky at the edge of secrets preserved for ages, ready to drift further into the story of light, rhythm, and the gentle order of the cosmos. There was a book that was different from all the others. Long before cities were built and destroyed, scrolls were copied, and libraries were built. It didn't yell or ask for attention. The pages were a quiet record of the movements of the heavens, showing the paths of the sun, moon, and stars with a level of detail that seemed almost tender. The Book of Luminaries was more than just a description of the universe. It showed its rhythm and pulse, and how each light above was part of a pattern that looked like life itself. People who found it in Enoch's time would have known that it wasn't a book to read quickly. It was a book to sit with and take in slowly. The book is important in a deep but not obvious way. It teaches us about time, cycles, and how seasons and nights slowly change. It also reminds us that the universe moves with purpose. Every line, every carefully chosen word, is a meditation on how light and shadow balance each other out. It is both scientific and kind, exact and poetic. For Enoch, it was not just knowledge. It was a mirror of harmony, a reflection of the calm order that rules both the sky above and the heart below. To understand it is to feel that calm order, like how a soft breeze feels on a still lake, or how moonlight pulls along a calm river. How could a book that is so full of wisdom and beauty almost be lost to the world? The answer is that human memory is not permanent, history is fragile, and fate can scatter even the most valuable things. Over the years, kingdoms came and went, languages changed, and empires grew across continents, often without paying attention to the old texts that were hidden in their shadows. A lot of books were lost, destroyed, or just forgotten, buried under layers of neglect or the dust of war. But this book somehow made it through. It lived on, in part, because it was loved in a place far from the centers of constant change. Ethiopia became its unlikely protector. The people of Ethiopia respected the ancient, the sacred, and the things that didn't want to take over but just wanted to be kept safe. It is amazing that the Book of Luminaries has survived in Ethiopia. Generations of caretakers, scholars, and scribes kept it up with quiet but firm care. They didn't brag about their treasure or try to get fame or money for keeping it safe. They knew how fragile knowledge can be when it is carried by people and memory. So the books stayed in the libraries and monasteries of a country that was far from empires and invasions, but became a safe place for things that were too subtle, too precise, and too in tune with the rhythms of heaven for everyone to understand. It waited here in silence, living on through dedication, devotion, and the gentle persistence of memory. It's hard to understand the idea that such a work could almost be forgotten. How can so many people not know about a book that is so exact and full of understanding? Maybe the text is weak because it is so subtle. The Book of Luminaries doesn't grab your attention with big stories or dramatic plots. It doesn't have any exciting drama right away or tell stories about kings' victories. It doesn't do that. Instead, it slowly reveals things and gently guides you to the pulse of the heavens. People who aren't ready to sit with its rhythm and follow the movements of heavenly bodies and the cycles of time might think it's not important or hard to understand. But its survival shows that even quiet wisdom can last for thousands of years, if it is kept safe and waits for people who can really listen. Imagining what could have been lost gives this story its emotional weight. Imagine a book that almost disappears, holding the universe's structure, order, and balance. People wouldn't notice its absence in the noise of everyday life, but they would feel it in a subtle disconnection from the natural flow of time and the patterns that are always around us. Every generation that didn't notice it drifted further away from the rhythm that Enoch saw, which connected sunrise to sunset, seed to harvest, and life to night. But because it lived on, we can follow a faint, unbroken line back to those first moments of discovery, back to Enoch standing under a sky that spoke, and back to a man who could see what others could not. The story of the book is closely related to the story of all people. It is both a guide and a reminder that there is still a path of harmony, even when the world seems chaotic and we forget how to follow the quiet patterns of life. For hundreds of years, Ethiopia kept that path safe from the tides of history. There is a quiet miracle in this preservation, the realization that knowledge doesn't have to be loud to survive. It can wait for the right people to understand it. The book, which is resting in its quiet places, is more than just ink on paper. It is a bridge to the past, a way to see the order behind the sky and the structure that is hidden in light and time, even now. As we think about it, we might feel a strange pull towards that quiet wisdom, a gentle nudge to slow down, look up, and notice the steady pulse of the heavens. It's not just a story of survival, it's also a story of patience, respect, and hope. Anyone who is willing to watch and wait, follow the paths of the sun and moon, and see the stars move into their places, can see the order of the universe. The Book of Luminaries says that even though things seem chaotic, there is a pattern underneath it all. If we let ourselves feel the night, we can feel the rhythm, and as night falls, the soft glow of faraway stars seems to hum with the memory of this old book, as if the heavens themselves are keeping it alive and whispering its lessons to anyone who stops to listen. The book is still there, a quiet reminder that beauty, precision, and balance can last, and that the secrets of the universe are never really lost when they are in careful, faithful hands. In many ways, Enoch was just like us. He walked the earth with questions in his heart, and times when he wasn't sure what to do that pushed gently against his spirit. There were times when he felt small, like the world went by without noticing him. But under that normal life was a calm steadiness, a gentleness that didn't want to be noticed but just followed a path he knew was right. When most people were busy with noise and distractions, Enoch moved slowly, paying attention to the small things that others missed, the way clouds moved across a morning sky, the way seasons changed, and the way shadows moved along a valley floor. History often remembers big wins and loud victories, but his life wasn't like that. He had fears, just like we all do. The fear of failing, of being misunderstood, and of being ignored in a world that often rewards the loudest and most daring voices. But it was these very human weaknesses, this mix of being aware and humble, that made him stand out. He didn't need to say he was worthy. The quiet devotion of his heart got people's attention in ways that couldn't be forced. He was patient and willing to step back and wait for moments of understanding to come up on their own. And in that patience, something amazing started to happen. Think about how it feels to be unseen, to go about your life in the shadows of bigger events, but still know that something important is happening around you. This is what Enoch went through. Even when he doubted whether his attention mattered, he was being watched. Not in a way that demanded performance, but in a way that recognized fidelity to quiet truth. It feels good to think that someone or something is watching over the honesty of your small actions, the sincerity of your gaze, and the careful care of your heart. Enoch thought that the universe itself was responding to how calm his spirit was. His journey has a timeless quality that is more like modern life than one might think at first. A lot of us go through our days feeling normal and unsure if the small choices we make have any meaning beyond the present. But there are times, often unnoticed by the rest of the world, when that quiet attention makes a big difference. Enoch's path shows us that devotion doesn't have to be loud to be important. That gentleness, perseverance, and observation are seen in ways that are both subtle and deep. In his story, heaven doesn't pay attention to showiness. It pays attention to honesty. And in this, his humanity helps us understand how we can also be aware of our own lives. The stories talk about Enoch's travels through forests, over plains, and under skies where the stars twinkled in ways that most people have never seen. He often moved alone, following his gut and a sense of purpose. He walked alone and saw the world as if it were the first time he had ever seen it with each step. He saw how the trees moved gently in the evening light, how the birds quietly moved from one place to another, and how the rivers softly hummed as they wound through valleys. These observations, though small, were the kind of attention that brings a human heart into sync with the rhythm of the universe. It seems like the universe itself responds to someone who walks with such quiet care, bending closer to teach, show, and include. Enoch's story also strikes a chord because it shows the conflict that many people feel between the normal and the extraordinary. He did not start his life with a big announcement or a command from God. He did not come into the world with fame or money, but by making simple, consistent choices to pay attention, think about things, and respect the world around him, he became a person through whom higher understanding could flow. His life shows that greatness isn't always about power or show. It's about being in tune with a rhythm that goes beyond what we can see right now. In this alignment, the everyday becomes holy. One of the most interesting things about Enoch's life is how he shows faith without making a big deal out of it. He went through doubts and uncertainties, but he never lost the feeling that there was something bigger, something he couldn't see, working with his careful attention. It's a very human story that reminds us that even when we feel like no one cares and the world seems to be indifferent, the small choices we make have effects that we can't always see. The Book of Luminaries does not show Enoch as someone who is different from other people. Instead, he is a full human being who feels fear, curiosity, and awe. But he is also open enough to learn more about the universe. Picture Enoch walking under a sky full of stars, with the cool night air gently pressing against him. His heart stayed open even though his mind was racing with questions. He was aware of small things that happened in order, like the moon rising and the sun moving slowly across the sky, and the faint glow of distant lights. Every observation made me feel more connected and reminded me that even the smallest amount of attention could calm a busy mind. The story says that as he walked through the dark, a soft light began to touch him. It didn't happen all at once, but slowly, because of how devoted he was and how open his spirit was to others. The beauty of Enoch's story is how close it is. We are not asked to admire him from a distance. Instead, we are asked to walk beside him, to feel the weight and gentleness of his life, and to see the world through the eyes of someone who notices, questions, and still believes. His story resonates because it reflects the silent struggles and ambitions of those who have felt insignificant yet yearned to engage in something more substantial. It reminds us that devotion, attention, and care do not go unnoticed, and that sometimes the universe responds not with loud revelation but with quiet recognition, bringing us closer to a light that has always been there. Enoch saw a soft light in the quiet, distance that he had never seen before. It didn't blaze or burn. It just glowed, a calm light that seemed to come from the air itself. The night was quiet, but the light made it feel fuller and more alive, as if every shadow had moved to make room for something that was beyond normal understanding. Enoch stopped for a moment, his heart racing with both excitement and fear. He had walked under the stars many times, but never had one seemed to breathe like this, as if it knew he was there and was reaching out with quiet intention. Then he heard it, a voice, soft but clear, with an authority that felt light and neither commanding nor demanding. Enoch. The name floated through the air and wrapped around him like a warm blanket. At first, he thought he might have made it up, like the wind or the sound of leaves moving far away. But the voice came back, firm but gentle, and with it came a warmth that slowly spread through his chest. He turned and looked into the dark, and there it was, an angel, a figure that was bright and calm, not scary or far away, but close enough to feel familiar. This was Uriel. At first, Enoch was confused. He had heard of angels, beings that walked between heaven and earth, but seeing one so close and paying so much attention to him made him feel both awe and disbelief. He felt small, like one person in a huge universe, but the angel's gaze didn't judge him. It was welcoming and soft, like the hand of someone who had a secret for a long time and was now ready to share it. Enoch's doubts and fears of not being good enough came and went, but underneath them was a quiet curiosity that had always led him. The angel's presence made me feel better. The light wasn't harsh or blinding. It was soft and wrapped around the room in a calmness that seemed to pulse with the beat of the night. Enoch could feel his own breathing slow down, as if it were in sync with something older, something big and unseen. His mind, which had been racing with questions and doubts, started to calm down letting him take in what was really happening. He understood that he was being drawn into knowledge that wasn't being forced on him, but offered to him as a gift that he only had to be there and pay attention to. Uriel moved in a way that had a delicate rhythm, as if each step and gesture were part of a pattern that Enoch could feel but not yet name. The angel spoke again, softly, saying very little but showing a lot with his presence. Each look and each soft wave of light showed that they understood each other in a way that went beyond words. Enoch, who had spent nights looking at the stars and thinking about the order above, felt a connection he had never felt before. The universe he had studied with quiet patience now seemed alive, as if the heavens were leaning closer. Curious and waiting, Enoch felt a lot of different emotions at once. Humility and a strange sense of belonging. He was just a regular guy with doubts and fears, and now he was being called by a being that was both light and understanding. The angel knew who he was and paid him attention without pretending, which made him feel grateful and amazed. It wasn't just interest. It was the realization that he had been ready in his own quiet way, that his focus, thoughtfulness, and even his pauses had made him ready for this moment of invitation. Uriel didn't hurry the meeting. The angel's calm light made it seem like they had more patience than any human could understand. Enoch could tell how big the offer was: knowledge of heavenly patterns, light and time, and cycles that had been in charge of creation since before people counted days. But there was no pressure or expectation that he would understand it all right away. It was an opening, a door that was slightly open, waiting for him to walk through at a speed that his mind and heart could handle. That patience, more than anything else, made the knowledge easy to get to. It changed something that could have been scary into something personal. A conversation between the finite and the infinite, with no forced syllables. For Enoch, it had a huge emotional effect. He felt like he was being seen and recognized in a way that went beyond what people could see. It seemed like all of his little efforts, quiet observations, and nights of thinking and wondering had led up to this moment. There was trust here, a connection growing between a simple man and a being of light, between human curiosity and divine knowledge. Enoch was in awe, but he also had a quiet courage. He was willing to get closer, take advice, and let Uriel's rhythm draw him in. Enoch understood that being chosen wasn't about being perfect, or having special skills when he saw that light. It was about being there, paying attention, and being ready to listen quietly. His heart, which often felt small and unsure, now knew that there is a place where ordinary devotion and extraordinary grace meet. Uriel, calm and bright, was not a distant figure of authority, but a friend who helped him understand things that had once seemed impossible. Enoch's mind, which was full of questions, slowly calmed down. Fear turned into curiosity. Respect took the place of doubt. And as this gentle unfolding happened, he felt the first stirrings of understanding. It was the start of a journey that would take him far beyond what he could see, led by a being whose glow held knowledge, patience, and care. The stars and quiet of the night seemed to lean in even closer, wrapping him in the soft embrace of what was about to be revealed. It wasn't a demand. It was an invitation to step gently into light and understanding. Enoch took his first step into a world that felt both impossibly far away and strangely familiar, like he had dreamed it before but never known it was real. There were soft currents of light in the air that made it look like it was shimmering. They floated in slow arcs that made patterns he couldn't yet name. Every move seemed planned, but it was also soft, like water moving in a stream. It had a quiet energy that brushed past him with a soft insistence. The world he had known, which was solid and connected to the ground, melted away into a huge space where the normal rules of time and space seemed to be on hold. Instead, there were rhythms that were both strange and calming. There were lights everywhere he looked. They floated lazily but with a purpose, and each one glowed in colors that ranged from warm gold to deep sapphire. As they passed, they softened and blended. They moved with a grace that made it seem like they knew where they were in a design that was too big for people to understand. Enoch could feel their soft presence, a quiet hum in the air around him that wasn't sound but a feeling, a vibration that filled his chest and steadied his breath. The silence was complete, but it was also alive. It was a living quiet that seemed to speak without words, inviting him to watch, to wonder, and to join in as he walked further. The light currents started to form arcs and paths, making invisible maps in the air. Every step showed more complexity, with more complex layers of motion that hinted at patterns, cycles, and connections that are beyond what most people can see. Enoch's heart swelled with awe. He had seen stars move across the night sky before, but never like this, never so close and so quickly. He could almost feel the pulse of creation flowing through these maps of the stars. Each bright current was like a thread in the tapestry of the heavens. He stopped to catch his breath and take in how big everything was around him. The mood was not scary, but it was soft and not overwhelming, but it drew you in. Lights floated above and around him, and they seemed to know he was there because they changed their positions in small, almost unnoticeable ways. Some drifted close, like a whisper brushing against his vision, while others moved away, fading into the distance, only to come back with a slow, graceful elegance. There was a story, a rhythm, and a knowledge waiting to be felt instead of spoken in every movement. Enoch saw that the light itself seemed to hold memories. There were trails left behind where it had been, slowly fading away like echoes of a song. As he walked, the light currents reacted to his curiosity by widening in arcs when he looked closely, leading him to new angles and points of view that he hadn't expected. There was freedom in the design, and every movement felt planned but not stiff. It was soft enough that he could explore without fear. He understood that the world he had entered was alive, not like beings or creatures, but as a consciousness woven through patterns of light and space that invited him to participate and think. He reached out a hand, not sure if it would touch anything real, and felt the soft hum of energy brush against his fingers. It wasn't solid, but it was there, a sign that he was on the right path. Every step showed him new shapes, groups of glowing arcs, interwoven currents that made delicate patterns, circles and spirals that reminded him of the sun, moon, and stars he had seen from Earth. The celestial maps were more than just drawings. They were living examples of order and rhythm, a harmony he had only just begun to feel on quiet nights under the open sky. Enoch's mind, which was usually full of earthly thoughts, felt very clear. People's tendency to rush, overthink, and judge success by what they see or do went away. In the light and the floating stars, he learned about patience, being there, and being in tune. He could feel the slow, steady movement of the heavens, which didn't require understanding but offered insight to those who were willing to see it. It was as if the universe had slowed down, bringing him into its rhythm so he could take in what he was meant to see and feel, step by gentle step. The maps kept going in every direction, adding layers and branches that made paths that led deeper into the heart of the celestial order. He saw lines that made him think of the sun, moon, and stars moving through cycles he could only begin to understand. He also saw currents that twisted and turned like ribbons of memory, linking moments across time and space. There was no need to hurry or be in a hurry. There was only the invitation to move slowly, pay attention, and let the patterns sink in deeper than thought alone. It wasn't just the vision that amazed him. It was also the feeling of being a part of something bigger, of knowing that he was both small and important, watching and taking part in the unfolding of cosmic rhythm. Time, as he had known it on Earth, seemed to stop. He didn't feel impatient, even though one step could take minutes or hours. The light currents, the floating paths, and the soft hum of unseen energy all came together to make a place where awareness itself became a kind of movement. He understood that the first steps into the heavenly maps weren't about getting there quickly or mastering them. They were about getting in tune with them, opening the senses to the flow, and letting understanding come slowly and gently, like the moon moving across the sky at night. Enoch stopped in the middle of a wide space, where arcs of glowing light surrounded him and shimmered in soft gradients. He looked up at the lights above, and for a moment, the whole field seemed to pulse gently, as if the maps themselves had recognized how much care and attention he was giving them. He felt a wave of wonder wash over him as he realized that he had entered not just a place to observe, but also a place where learning and feeling were one and the same, where every movement of light held the essence of cycles, time, and harmony. As Uriel got closer, his presence changed a little. The soft glow around him got stronger, and he led Enoch to the first of 6 glowing gates that shone like liquid gold. Each gate floated in the air without any visible support, giving off a warmth that felt both heavenly and gentle, like it was inviting you in instead of pushing you away. The first gate pulsed gently, like it was alive and breathing, waiting for Enoch to notice how it opened and closed. He could feel a soft vibration in the air, a low hum that echoed through the soles of his feet, telling him to move closer, pay attention, and see what had been hidden from normal people for a long time. Uriel's voice was soft but steady, filling in the gaps between the shimmering currents. "This is the first gate of the sun," he whispered, and his voice was both calm and full of wonder. "It opens to show the path of the light, the rhythm that the heavens follow, and the measure of time itself." Enoch listened, spellbound, as if each word were a glowing thread in the air that connected his heart to the vast music above. He had seen the sun's path on earth at dawn and dusk, but here it became real, almost touchable, like a lullaby whispered across time. The first rays of light moved slowly through the gate, making arcs that gently curved over the invisible horizon of the heavenly realm. Each pulse of light had a soft rhythm that marked the hours and cycles in a way that spoke more to feeling than to thinking. Enoch saw patterns that he had only ever imagined while lying awake under the stars at night. These patterns matched the universe's quiet pulse with the rising and setting of light. The movement was smooth, almost like music, as if the sun itself were breathing and stretching in a way that was older than any memory. Enoch felt the light rise and fall in his chest, a harmony that made him shiver with wonder, as if the whole universe were talking to him through warmth and glow. Uriel gently pointed him in the right direction, leading him along the edge of the gate's golden light. The angel's calm presence gave Enoch strength and helped him see small things, like how the light shimmered against the flow of celestial energy and the faint echoes of movement that seemed to ripple outward, linking distant gates and currents in ways that were both subtle and clear. The sun's path was not just a path. It was a story told in slow motion, showing how time moved, how day turned into night, how warmth turned into shadow, and how life and sky had been governed by a steady rhythm. Long before humans could measure it, Enoch felt both awe and a soft humility. Seeing the sun's path in this close, planned way made me realize that the heavens weren't random but carefully put together, like a living song that needed quiet and attention to hear. It felt like listening to a lullaby that you could feel in your bones, a song whose melody you could only feel. He could feel the universe's patience. How light moved not quickly but in arcs of intention, linking different times and places. Every time the sun moved through the gate, it was like a pulse, a beat, a measure of both stability and awe. Uriel stayed next to him, glowing but not in the way that would draw attention to him. Instead of spilling all of his knowledge at once, he let it flow around Enoch. The angel said softly, "Watch and feel. Don't try to control the understanding. The light teach you its own rhythm." Enoch followed the advice and let his mind calm down and his heart sync up with the movement he was seeing. It was different from any other learning he had done. It was less about understanding and more about connecting, less about remembering and more about feeling. As he got closer to the gate, the experience became more personal, as if the sun itself were recognizing him and inviting him to walk along its path. As Enoch stood under the first gate, he started to notice small changes in the light's tone and intensity. Some rays were warm, almost golden, while others were cooler and had a soft silver color. This made it seem like there were cycles within cycles and layers of understanding that were moving. The sun's path turned into a living map that showed not only where it went each day, but also the bigger arcs that brought seasons and years. These small but important movements changed life on Earth. Every pulse of light made him feel connected, like he was standing at the edge of a huge, hidden orchestra where every note and vibration had been set long before he was born. The emotional impact was very strong. Enoch, who was often overwhelmed by the daily routines of his life, felt a peace that was beyond words. Fear, doubt, and uncertainty went away when they saw such planned beauty. He understood that the sun's movement through this first gate was more than just a show of light. It was a call to trust in order, to feel how carefully the heavens were put together, and to know that he had a small but important role in it. The movement's harmony brought both awe and comfort, a quiet reminder that everyone has a part to play, every attentive heart is noticed, and every rhythm is part of the larger cosmic flow. Enoch's gaze stayed on the first gate, which kept pulsing softly. Each wave of light was a delicate measure of time and space. He wanted to move on to the next moment, to see the gates open that he hadn't seen yet, but he stayed in the moment, letting the warmth, movement, and quiet beauty fill him up. The sun's lullaby, moving slowly and gracefully under Uriel's direction, left him in awe, with a human heart that was, if only for a moment, in tune with the eternal pulse of the cosmos. As Enoch walked slowly next to Uriel, the soft light coming from the second gate lit up each step. This gate, unlike the first, sparkled with soft shades of gold, green, and amber, as if the light was folding in on itself to make patterns that he could almost see. Uriel's voice, calm and steady, helped him feel the rhythms more than see them. The seasons are written through these gates, and the cycles of life and sky are marked in ways that reflect not just the heavens, but the hearts of those who watch them. Enoch felt the weight and tenderness of the words as they drifted around him. More felt than heard, a resonance that brushed against the edges of his awareness. The light itself seemed to move, going up in arcs and down in gentle waves. Enoch could feel patterns of growth and rest, warmth and chill, beginnings and endings in these movements that were like the natural cycles he had seen on Earth for a long time. Uriel moved next to him and pointed out small changes, a faint shimmer that suggested the days were getting longer, a delicate pulse that suggested the nights were getting cooler, and a slow arc that showed how the Earth was slowly tilting towards or away from light. Every move was gentle, slow, and patient, as if the seasons were breathing through him and showing him their rhythm. He understood that the gates did more than mark the passage of time in the heavens. They created patterns that affected people's lives in ways that were not seen. There was a break in the warmth, and Enoch felt sad, the heavy silence that comes when growth slows and hope seems far away. Then a soft wave of light brought back memories of happiness, of times when hearts rise in time with the bright arcs above. He learnt that healing was also written in these movements, which was slow and hard to notice at first, but kept going without stopping. The seasons weren't random. They had a purpose, a rhythm of balance and restoration, and they taught those who stopped to watch them. Enoch walked under the streams of light and felt the ebb and flow of these cycles in his own chest. He thought back to all the nights he had spent watching the world change outside his window. He noticed how the air changed, how the clouds drifted, how plants slowly bloomed in the spring, and how leaves fell in the autumn. At the time, it all seemed boring, but now, with Uriel's help and the gentle currents of the gates, it became clear that it was all planned, part of a larger rhythm that connected heaven and earth, light and life, and the human heart. The angel was always there, like a quiet anchor in the flowing currents. Uriel didn't give long explanations. Instead, he let the gates show Enoch how the seasons changed, how cycles repeated, and how each time of growth, rest, or change was important to the harmony of all things. Enoch's eyes were wide with wonder as they followed the arcs and spirals, seeing the story of time that was hidden inside them. Each pulse of light seemed to echo parts of human life, the laughter of spring, the heaviness of winter, the reflective pause of autumn, and the promise of new life in early bloom. Enoch's mind started to relax in ways it never had before as he stayed. The constant stream of thoughts, the worry about days that had not yet passed and questions that had not yet been answered, faded away as the light slowly and gently spread. The gates didn't rush him or ask him to understand. They just moved, and he was invited to move with them, to let the rhythms sink into his bones and his heart beat in time with the gentle rhythm of the universe. He saw that the seasons of human life were like the seasons of the heavens. Joy was like the days getting longer. Sadness was like the nights getting longer. And healing was like the light coming back after darkness. He thought about times when he was sad, and his spirit felt heavy and lost. He realized that these seasons were not punishments or signs of neglect, but part of the careful weaving of life. Every time of grief and doubt was a necessary turn in the pattern, getting ready for the warmth that would come back. It got hearts ready to understand, to be strong, and to connect more deeply with the cycles that ruled both the earth and the heavens. The gates silent, glowing arcs were a comforting reminder that the rhythms of life are not random or cruel, but planned, ongoing, and nurturing if you were patient enough to see them. Enoch could feel the light and shadow pulses echoing inside of him, as if the gates were mapping the inside of his heart as well as the outside of the world. He felt that human experience, like the movement of the sun and stars, followed patterns that were both old and new, seen and unseen, soft and strong. Joy, sadness, and healing all showed themselves in small changes in rhythm, color, and movement. The gates taught him that life should be watched, lived, and respected, not rushed or forced. They also taught him that even in the quietest, most ordinary moments, the cycles of growth, pause, and renewal were happening around and inside him. The light currents that slowly passed through the second gate seemed to wrap around Enoch in a way that was both cosmic and personal. He could feel a deep connection growing, in alignment with forces that were too big to understand but were also very similar to what people go through every day. He understood that the seasons, even though they are often hard to notice in everyday life, had lessons written in light for anyone who was willing to see, hear, and feel. The slow pace, the soft pulsing arcs, and the flowing currents all made him want to join in, not just watch. He realized that human hearts, like celestial patterns, are part of a larger rhythm that goes on forever. As they got closer to the next bright threshold, Enoch followed Uriel. The soft glow of silver replaced the warmth of gold. Here, the moon didn't look like a distant ball in the night sky. Instead, it looked like a presence. A gentle being with a quiet personality that seemed shy but also aware of its own subtle power. Its light touched the currents of the heavenly realm like a soft lullaby, changing from a faint silver to a soft, pearly glow. Enoch thought the moon was almost human, as if it didn't want to fully show itself, but couldn't help but share bits of its bright secrets with people who were patient enough to notice. The moon moved slowly and on purpose, waxing and waning through its arcs in a way that was like how people's hearts beat. There were times when its glow seemed to grow and flow across the space, lighting up paths with a calm clarity. There were also times when the light softened and almost disappeared behind a veil of shadows. This was a sign of the ebb and flow of emotion and the gentle pull of introspection that everyone knows. Enoch felt the gentle intelligence in these cycles and knew that the moon's pulse told stories, not of grandeur or spectacle, but of the small changes that happen in life that go unnoticed. Uriel's voice was calm and soft, and it led him without words that were too heavy with explanation. The moon teaches patience and reflection, the angel said in a voice that almost blended with the soft silver light. Even in retreat, there is movement, and even in fullness, there is preparation for quiet. Enoch felt the wisdom settle within him, like a gentle hand on his shoulder, reassuring him that every phase of life, emotion, and intention was recognized, held, and woven into a greater pattern. The silver currents moved in waves that looked like a river of moonlight. Even though they were cool, they felt warm. Enoch could see small arcs branching off from the main currents. These were thin threads of light that pulsed very faintly, almost not at all, tracing cycles within cycles. It was as if the moon's secrets were hidden in layers, only showing themselves to those who moved slowly and looked with quiet curiosity. Every flicker and shimmer seemed to have a meaning, a reminder to be patient, a whisper of strength, and a lullaby for the heart that was heavy with human worries. He reached out without thinking, not sure if he could touch the moon's light, and felt a soft, comforting brush against his fingers. It wasn't solid, but it had a presence that he could feel deep in his chest. He remembered lying awake under the night sky a long time ago, and feeling both small and connected as he watched the moon slowly rise over the land. In the celestial realm, those feelings were stronger, more intense, and had more meaning than they do in the real world. The moon wasn't just a light in the sky. It was a guide, a friend, and a storyteller of the heart's unspoken feelings. Enoch saw the light gently change from strong to weak and back again. He noticed that it could be both strong and soft, revealing and hiding at the same time. The waxing moon seemed to push things forward, giving people strength and clarity and lighting up paths that had seemed unclear before. The moon was getting smaller, which made him think and rest. This break gave him time to process, feel, and notice small changes in how he saw things. Uriel helped him see these small differences by pointing out currents that matched the lunar arcs. This showed that the moon's effect was both subtle and deep, connecting the cycles of heaven with the rhythms of human life. The moon moved in a way that was like poetry, a soft song that could only be heard when the mind was quiet enough to feel. Enoch's heart was in tune with the rhythm, and he understood that the waxing and waning were not just astronomical events but also signs of care and balance, showing how light and shadow, presence and absence, and giving and retreating all work together. The moon didn't demand attention. It invited it, like a friend leaning in to share a secret in the quiet of night. As Enoch walked under the streams of silver, he thought about human life and realized that emotions were also like these patterns in the moon. Times of fullness, happiness, and certainty were as natural as the bright arcs of the moon as it grew. Times of retreat, reflection, or sadness were just as important because they were needed breaks that got the heart ready for renewal. The moon, which was shy but bright, taught him that even small, quiet times were important, that every shadow had a purpose, and that the delicate balance between being present and absent was part of the rhythm of life. The silver light touched Enoch like a gentle hand, making him feel peaceful and amazed. He could feel how his thoughts were slowly changing and how his awareness was slowly following the moon's cycle. There was no need to hurry or understand. The secrets came out slowly, almost without anyone noticing, but they were very clear. At this moment, he felt the link between the sky and the human heart, between silver light and subtle feeling, and between the moon's cycles and the soul's cycles. Every breath and every pulse of light was a quiet reminder that life is a series of waxing and waning, of gentle revelation and tender concealment. By witnessing these rhythms, one finds both peace and understanding. Enoch stayed under the soft light of the moon, noticing small changes in its light that were almost too small to notice at first, like a whisper brushing against his mind. The silver arcs that had once shone with quiet steadiness now softened even more, dimming in gentle waves, as if the moon itself were breathing more slowly, holding back some of its fullness and showing just enough to guide him without overwhelming him. He could feel the sadness in the fading light, which reminded him of how weak he often felt in his own heart when faith, hope, or certainty seemed to waver. And the weight of the unseen pressed lightly but steadily against his chest. Uriel's calm presence was with him, a steady glow that didn't ask for anything but just was, letting Enoch see the gradual changes in light. "The moon fades," Uriel said softly, his voice blending with the silver currents, "not to disappear, but to teach. Its light fades so that hearts can remember, start over, and look forward. Even in quiet retreat, there is guidance, there is subtlety, there is a path forward." Enoch watched the delicate dimming and realized that the moon's waxing and waning was not random. Each shift taught him something, just like the cycles of doubt and reassurance. despair and quiet hope that he had gone through many times on earth. The light that was fading was soft and almost sad, but the restraint was beautiful. As the light faded, shadows grew longer and softly crossed currents of silver that now looked like they were almost liquid. Enoch really felt the symbolism. He knew that faith could get weaker without going away completely, and that hope could come and go, leaving room for reflection, introspection, and growth. The quiet beat of the moon seemed to echo the heart's hidden struggles, showing that even times of doubt were part of a bigger plan, a rhythm that connected human experience with the movement of the stars. He followed the paths of soft beams that crossed the sky, and saw small arcs that came and went with the fading light. In this cycle, there was a sense of patience. It was a reminder that light didn't go out all at once. It faded slowly, giving people time to adjust, understand, and recognize the hidden patterns that controlled both heaven and human life. Enoch could still hear this lesson in his own mind, like how fear or doubt sometimes crept in, not to destroy but to prepare, not to discourage but to deepen awareness, not to hide the path but to sharpen perception. Uriel moved quietly and gracefully next to him, pointing with the softest motion to threads of silver light that were still there even though the light was fading. Each thread seemed to hum softly, vibrating in harmony with the universe's hidden energies. This made it seem like there was still guidance even when the outer light faded. Enoch felt how deeply connected this movement was. It reminded him that darkness is never empty, that struggle is never meaningless, and that even the faintest light can shine when people learn to pay attention. The waning moon was not a symbol of loss, but of the strength and subtlety of patterns that last. The angel didn't say much, but what he did say was important. "Look at the light fading," Uriel said softly. "It is the time for quiet thought, the place where new beginnings happen. Even as it weakens, it carries promise." Enoch felt the warmth of understanding in the silver currents, as if the light, though softened, had changed into a more intimate, almost secretive rhythm that made him want to lean in, listen, and feel instead of think. There was a quiet in the air, a pause that made the soft ebb of light stand out. It was a lesson in humility, trust, and accepting both cosmic and personal cycles. He thought about the human heart and how often it beats in time with the stars. Like the full moon, joy and certainty rise and spread across days with bright clarity. But times of doubt, fear, or quiet sadness dim that brightness in a way that is subtle but very important. The fading moonlight showed the small, everyday problems and the quiet challenges that weigh on the spirit, as well as the slow loss of faith or confidence that everyone goes through. But the moonlight didn't go away when it retreated. It just got ready to come back, to renew itself, and to wax, which is what makes it full again. Enoch noticed how the changing light and shadow could make him feel things in his heart, as he moved slowly under the slowly dimming silver. It was as if the motion of the stars were talking directly to his heart. Every flicker of fading light called for patience, thought, and faith. Each soft dimming reminded him that even when life seems uncertain or faith weak, the universe's bigger currents keep going, steady and persistent, making sure that eventual illumination is not a matter of chance, but a part of the natural rhythm. He felt a little better about his own worries, as if the moon had heard them and was speaking to him in a soft light. The fading light made long, thin patterns on the ground, making a quiet dance of silver and shadow. Enoch knew that human hearts, like heavenly currents, had to learn to move with these rhythms, to not be afraid of times when things got dark, and to believe that light guidance, and hope would come back. The moon's slow retreat became a mirror, showing both weakness and strength. It reminded him that beauty, meaning, and continuity lasts even when the light is weak. He stayed in that quiet for a while and realized that the mysteries of waxing and waning were not just celestial. They were deeply, personally human. As Enoch walked, the quiet shimmer of countless stars surrounded him. Their soft glow stretched across the sky like tiny lanterns hanging in space. Each star had a presence, a calm personality, and was disciplined and patient. Their lights stayed steady and unchanging through the slow passage of time. They weren't just bright spots. They were beings with a purpose, each following its own path with unwavering devotion and circling unseen orbits according to laws that Enoch could almost feel but not fully understand. He could feel the weight of ancient memory in their silent procession, the slow build-up of countless cycles, and the constancy that stayed the same even when everything else changed. Uriel's soft glow followed him, drawing attention to the small differences between the stars. Each has a path, the angel said, the sound so soft that it was hard to hear, but it was mixed in with the light around it. Every move is planned, and every orbit is planned. Creation itself sets the rhythm for them. Enoch watched as the stars traced slow arcs, some getting brighter and others getting dimmer, in a gentle dance that seemed to speak without words. He admired their patience and the way they never gave up, and he saw in their steady glow a reflection of how steadfast people can be. But even in all this peace, he could feel a tension that he couldn't put his finger on right away. Some stars flickered in an uncertain way, moving a little off their long-held paths. Their light flickered as if they were unsure of what to do, as if they were being pulled by curiosity or rebellion to test limits that had been in place for ages. Enoch felt a shiver of both wonder and fear as he sensed the start of a story that had not yet fully unfolded. Not everyone follows their own path, Uriel said softly, and the words flowed like silver through the light. Even the most disciplined and consistent people sometimes falter, question, or are tempted to stray. The idea made Enoch feel something deep inside. He had often felt a pull away from the paths he knew were right or expected during quiet times in his life. The little decisions, the small temptations, and the ease with which he could go off course were not unlike the flickers he now saw among the stars. He understood that the heavens reflected human experience in more than just light and rhythm. They told stories of obedience and disobedience, patience and failure, constancy and the desire to wander. It seemed like the stars were silently and brightly devoted to teaching lessons, both warning and inspiring. To those whose hearts were open to them, Enoch watched the lights that were moving in a strange way and tried to figure out what they were doing. Some were drawn by curiosity, while others were pulled by currents he couldn't see yet. Their deviation was small, almost graceful, but it sent a ripple through the patterns around them, a disturbance that touched nearby stars like a whisper of caution, as if even celestial beings were affected by the effects of living together. The angel next to him moved without making a sound, letting Enoch watch, feel, and take in the quiet tension that ran through the otherwise peaceful night. Even in this chaos, there was beauty, which shows how complicated creation is. The stars were old and patient, but they also had the power to fight, test, and go off course from their planned paths. Enoch felt this idea resonate in his own spirit. People stray from what is steady and good, but they can still come back and are still part of a pattern that is bigger than what they can see right now. The flickering lights and hesitant arcs talked about choices, consequences, and the heavy weight of responsibility that comes with even the smallest changes from the right path. As he walked on, he saw that the steady stars around the faltering ones seemed to respond not with judgment, but with quiet constancy, their light never changing. They gave balance, a quiet reminder that stability creates a space where even those who stumble can eventually find their way. Enoch's chest felt lighter at this thought. He realized that mistakes, doubts, and hesitation are not the end, but part of a bigger dance that keeps things in balance through patience and gentle correction. The stars had seen many times when things went wrong and then came back again. Their quiet discipline taught both endurance and mercy. The skies seemed to go on forever, and Enoch could feel the rhythm, a heartbeat of the universe, pulsing faintly beneath the stars' movements. Each path drawn by a disciplined star echoed with patience, a silent music that spoke of time beyond human understanding, of ages passing in quiet observation, and of constancy that lasted even when things were uncertain. But the small changes reminded him that perfection is never static. It is always changing, living, and being negotiated between following the rules and being tempted, between being obedient and being curious. Enoch's heart felt the movement above and knew that there was a connection between people and these far-off orbs. He thought of choices that flash like lights that aren't sure, times when the heart hesitates, when courage falters, or when curiosity or fear pulls someone away from steady paths. He understood that these flickers are not just failures. They are part of a cosmic pattern that teaches, corrects, and eventually leads to alignment with greater rhythms. The stars, which were disciplined but could also wander, were like the journey of a person in both small and big ways. They taught us to be patient, watchful, and keep going even when things are hard. The stars' soft changes and the steady glow around them made a tapestry of light and movement that Enoch could feel in his chest as well as see with his eyes. He may have finally understood that discipline and deviation, constancy and faltering were all connected and needed to keep the balance of the universe. He also realized that every wandering light and every hesitant pulse had a story inside it that needed to be understood. The stillness of the night held him and cradled him as he walked among the shining paths, learning to see without judging, to see without rushing, and to feel the slow rhythm of stars walking their paths. Enoch stepped forward, feeling the gentle pull of unseen forces as the first of the heavenly gates began to move. They opened slowly, with a grace that seemed planned, as if even the act of opening was part of a rhythm that had been going on for a long time. Stars moved towards the gates like quiet rivers, with silver and gold tracing winding arcs. Each light moved with purpose, but there was a softness to it that made the scene feel like a dream. Enoch stopped for a moment to let the feeling wash over him. It was a slow, meditative awe that reached deep into his chest and eased the tension he didn't know he had. The gates themselves were huge and glowed with a soft light that bent the light of the stars into soft streams that looked almost like water. They didn't yell to get people's attention. Instead, they asked for attention and patience. As Enoch watched, he felt a deep calm, the kind that comes over the mind when the heart connects with something bigger than itself. Every flicker of light and every slow drift of a star seemed planned but easy. They reminded me that even when things are moving, there can be peace. Uriel floated next to him, quietly guiding him through the scene as it unfolded. He whispered, "These are the gates of the stars," and the soft flow of celestial currents mixed with his voice. "They let you move, pass through, and keep time. They hold the order of the heavens." keeping the vastness of night in gentle balance. Enoch felt the words sink into him, as if the gates were speaking in patterns that went beyond language. He didn't listen with his ears. He listened with the quiet pulse of his heart. Each star moving towards its gate brought light and purpose. They were part of a delicate dance that he could not yet name, but could feel in his chest. The stars moved in a way that was very interesting. They didn't hurry. Instead, they moved in lines that were patient, some slower and some a little faster, but they all moved together in a way that seemed to stretch on forever through the night. The rivers of light twisted and turned without hitting each other, creating a dance of precision and softness that left behind trails of shimmering silver that hung in the still air like mist. Enoch's eyes followed them without thinking, following the arcs as they curved gently. It was as if the stars knew he was there and wanted him to see the balance between freedom and order, individuality and collective rhythm. There was a sound, but it wasn't like a normal sound. It was more like a vibration under the skin, a resonance that came with the slow opening of the gates. There was a soft echo, a hum, that came from each change and movement of the stars. It told of patience and strength. Enoch could feel the resonance deep inside him. He understood that the gates were more than just walls or doors. They were living thresholds that controlled the flow of celestial energy, guiding it, holding it, but never limiting it. It taught me how to be a gentle leader, how to care for others, and how to give them space to move as the gates opened wider. The rivers of stars began to break up into thin streams, each going towards a different channel of light. Some stars twinkled softly, as if they were full of stories, messages, or memories. Enoch thought that if he listened closely enough, each one could tell a story about far-off worlds, finished cycles, and ages that had passed. The streams moved slowly and in a meditative way. He matched his breath to the flow, inhaling the calm and exhaling the tension, letting his awareness grow with the light. Uriel pointed to the biggest gate, where more stars were gathered, but they moved with the same calm, graceful purpose. He said quietly, "This gate is older than memory. It has guided countless lights through the ages, keeping order and rhythm. Notice how nothing is moving too fast or too slowly. Time here is not measured by urgency, but by the gentle insistence of purpose." Enoch watched, understanding but not fully understanding, feeling that the scene held wisdom too vast for words, knowledge that was not communicated through sentences but through the steady, patient motion of countless stars. He understood that the gates weren't just doors. They were mirrors of life, showing how people have lived in the stars. The stars moved along their patient paths, sometimes slowly and sometimes quickly. The gates opened, not by force, but by alignment, reminding him that progress and guidance work best when they move with the natural flow of life. Every arc of light and every trailing shimmer taught him to be subtle and observant, to be patient and trust, and to understand that beauty often comes from slow, careful unfolding instead of big, dramatic bursts, as the stars slowly moved through the gates. Enoch felt a quietness come over the whole area. The scene was beautiful, not because it was grand, but because it had a calming, intimate rhythm. Every light moved with a purpose, every arc had a meaning, and the gates, which were huge and bright, carefully and beautifully guided the flow. Enoch felt like he was seeing not just a physical process, but a story of the cosmos itself, a story of light, patience, and quiet order that reflected both the heavens and the hearts of those who would stop and watch. It felt like the air itself was vibrating softly, carrying the essence of the star's journey. Enoch took it all in, letting the rivers of light fill him with peace and quiet awe. There was no hurry, no expectation. The universe moved slowly and on purpose, in perfect rhythm. He understood, at a level beyond thought, that these gates and the stars they guided were part of a harmony older than memory, deeper than understanding, and as tender and intimate as the pulse of his own heart. Enoch moved quietly under the tapestry of stars, his eyes drawn to the subtle patterns that seemed to pulse with their own rhythm, as if time itself had taken shape and was breathing across the sky. He sensed the presence of unseen guardians, a quiet energy that hinted at more than just watching him, intimate care and dedication to keeping the flow of moments, seasons, and cycles going. Time felt alive, not just measured in hours or days, but respected as a holy being that only those who are careful and devoted should have. The movements of the heavens and the soft flow of celestial light seemed to echo the work of angels, who were invisible but always watching, making sure that the cosmic rhythms stayed steady. Uriel floated nearby, glowing and calm, and drew Enoch's attention to a faint shimmer that pulsed in time with the slow movement of the stars. The angel whispered, "These are the appointed times," and their voice blended in with the soft sounds of the night. They are cared for, protected, and honored by those who watch over them, who guard them, and who follow the cycles set forth from the beginning. Seasons, years, sacred daysage is protected, tended, and unfolded according to the design of creation. Enoch could feel the weight of this responsibility, which was both delicate and deep. He could also feel the holiness in each moment that was protected and the care that had been given over the years to keep harmony and sacred order. He started to see patterns as he watched. Some stars shone a little brighter at certain points in their motion, marking the turning of the seasons, the changing of the months, and the gentle marking of holy days long before people named them. It seemed like each glow and each alignment was on purpose, like a bright echo of the divine hand shaping both time and life. Enoch was amazed by the quiet accuracy of the heavens, which remembered what the earth often forgot, the sacred rhythm that underlies all creation and the holiness of passing moments. It was a reminder that the cosmos remembers everything, even when human calendars fail. It is a subtle but unchanging clockwork of divine intention. He could feel the angels standing along these invisible paths, each one in charge of watching a certain period of time. Some watched over the moon's cycles, while others watched over the sun's rise and fall. But they all worked together, keeping an eye on everything and making sure that no important moment went by without being noticed. Enoch was amazed by how patient and consistent the guardians were. They weren't in a hurry and didn't get tired, but their presence was close, a comforting reminder that even the smallest moments are seen and remembered. Each angel's attention was both soft and deep, like a silent devotion to the way things should be. Enoch's thoughts turned to the people below, whose lives were like brief flashes compared to the vastness of eternity above. He thought about how often they missed the rhythm, the sacredness of days and seasons, and the importance of holy observances. But the heavens kept going in a quiet, orderly way. He knew that the appointed times were more than just markers of hours or months. They were calls to awareness, reminders to align with deeper currents, chances to see how everything is connected, and chances to touch the eternal in the fleeting. He understood that angels are both protectors and guides, quietly watching over these moments so that life doesn't lose its connection to the sacred dot, As a group of stars moved slowly across the sky, a faint light changed, signaling the end of one season and the start of another. Enoch felt a soft resonance, a vibration that seemed to hum with meaning under his skin. Having Uriel next to him made him feel even more reverent. "Look at how they move," the angel said softly. "Follow the set times, the holy times that have meaning. Nothing is lost, and nothing is ignored. Even as the world below moves quickly, the heavens keep the rhythm, protecting what is holy." Enoch felt the deep intimacy of this care, how each appointed time held layers of meaning beyond human understanding, and how each change in light reflected both divine intention and cosmic memory. As Enoch watched the bright arcs interact, the idea of guarded time started to become clearer. The dancers moved with purpose, but without effort, as if they were following a dance that was like real life in small ways. The way that appointed times were kept showed responsibility and attention, as well as grace and discipline. He knew that the angel's work wasn't stiff or mechanical. It was alive, changing, and deeply connected to both the natural order and the spiritual essence of creation. Enoch learned a lesson about being aware, being patient, and how sacred each moment is while they were on guard. As he walked deeper into the sky, he saw how light moved along invisible arcs and how the stars twinkled softly in time with the moon and sun's cycles. Some lights pulsed more strongly at certain times, marking holy days that would one day have a big impact on people. Others changed in small ways, showing how the seasons changed in ways that were similar to how people grow, reflect, and start over. Enoch felt a wave of calm wash over him. He felt that even in a world that was often full of hurry and distraction, the right rhythms were kept, cared for, and guided by unseen hands. The awareness settled over him like a soft lullaby, bringing him a calmness that filled him up. The guardians of time moved through their stations with patience and dedication, keeping an eye on everything in the universe to make sure it stayed in order and made sense. Enoch may have realized for the first time that these small, ordinary moments were part of a bigger picture, carefully and purposefully woven together and watched over by angels. Every holy moment and every appointed time had a purpose that was both gentle and deep. Enoch felt humbled and comforted to see the quiet devotion that kept the rhythm of life going. Enoch walked slowly, following the arcs of light that stretched across the night sky. He stopped to look at patterns he had only just begun to see. Uriel's presence next to him was soft, with a warmth that was almost too faint to notice. It seemed to pulse in time with the movements above. The sky now showed a rhythm, soft but clear, a quiet order that went on forever. Enoch could feel the rhythm of the days and nights. The moons and suns, a steady, unbroken pulse that hummed softly beneath the visible light. There was a calendar in the heavens, but it wasn't written down on stone or parchment. Instead, it was written in the movement of stars, the rise and fall of celestial bodies, and the delicate arcs of light that held the weight of ages. The rhythm unfolded before him, steady but flowing, like a living 364-day cycle, with each day being a note in a quiet symphony. It wasn't sudden or mechanical. Instead, each movement flowed smoothly into the next, as if the universe itself had learnt how to move gently. Enoch thought of the days as strands of soft light that wove together to make a tapestry that was both beautiful and well-balanced. The repetition was soothing and showed that time, when watched closely, it was not chaotic but a beautiful arrangement. Uriel led him closer to the light currents, pointing out small changes in the arcs of the stars. See how each day has its place and its measure, he whispered, his voice mixing with the soft hum of the heavens. The rhythm is exact, but it flows with grace. The heavens follow a pattern that keeps life, thought, and order going. Enoch watched the stars trace gentle lines, their paths marking invisible segments, flowing as naturally as water, as steady as breath. The 364-day rhythm was more than just numbers. It was a melody, a soft beat that had both practical and spiritual meaning. It was a quiet pulse that connected the earth below to the heavens above as he watched the movement. Enoch felt the calendar's delicate balance come to light. The days didn't just mark time. They also showed how light and shadow, growth and rest, work and reflection changed. The seasons came and went in a poetic way, a natural rhythm that shaped not only the earth, but also the hearts of the people who lived there. He thought that people moved through these currents without knowing it, guided by forces they couldn't see but affected by the harmony that flowed through the skies. Every day was a gift, a quiet offering of rhythm, structure, and balance that was kept and watched over by forces that are far beyond what people can understand. The 364-day cycle felt like it had to happen, but it wasn't strict. Enoch felt like he could breathe in the rhythm itself, a soft breath of time that was in order and a breath of calm and clarity. Heaven's calendar was alive, responsive, and caring, but it was also a quiet law that let all life thrive within its embrace. It taught without words, guided without force, and had a steady pulse that was like the patience of creation itself. Enoch was thankful for this invisible rhythm because it calmed him down and reminded him that the universe kept dancing in a measured way. Even when people were confused or in a hurry, he saw that some arcs of light sparkled a little more than others. These were small signs that showed the different seasons of the year. These weren't bright or loud. They were softly glowing, like soft whispers of importance. Enoch knew that these points were more than just order. They were reminders of sacred times and holy observances that connected human experience to the larger pattern of the heavens. The calendar was more than just a way to count days. It was a living guide that reminded people that life should flow with deeper rhythms and that both the ordinary and the sacred, the mundane and the eternal should be honored. Uriel's voice led him deeper into the flow of light, showing him how the patterns of days, seasons, months, and cycles were all connected. The heartbeat of the universe was like the ebb and flow of the sun and moon. Enoch was amazed by how exact, beautiful, and wise this design was without any effort. It was a structure that didn't need any force, attention, or calculation from the people who lived under it. But it shaped life in every moment, acting as a gentle, invisible guide that kept the universe in order, balanced, and full of quiet meaning. He could almost hear the soft hum of the 364-day rhythm, a lullaby of order that went through the heavens and into the earth below. The calendar wasn't a strict rule or a set expectation. It was more like a quiet friend, a pulse that helped people grow, think, and learn. Every day was a part of a story of light and shadow, and the slow build-up of moments that created a harmony, that kept life going in ways that were both small and big. Enoch felt a deep peace, a connection to something bigger than his own short life, and comfort in knowing that time itself had purpose, care, and a quiet grace as he walked under the flowing arcs. The 364-day cycle showed itself to be not only a measure of time, but also a reflection of human life, steady, gentle, and full of chances to align with purpose and rhythm. The days, soft and bright, seemed to say that patience, observation, and awareness were gifts, and that each moment had meaning if you paid attention to it. Enoch knew, in a way that words could hardly describe, that the perfect calendar of heaven was more than just numbers or astronomy. It was a living proof of harmony, a guide to being present, and a gentle reminder that when you respect time, it becomes a friend instead of a burden. Enoch looked down at the ground, and a quiet sadness came over him. When he looked down at the lives below, the rhythms he had just seen from the sky seemed weak. People were missing, ignoring, or even losing the natural rhythm of days and seasons and the careful rhythm of the sun, moon, and stars. People moved in ways that seemed rushed and out of sync with the delicate harmonies that controlled the universe. Enoch could feel a restlessness, a drifting away from the sacred timing that had been given to both heaven and earth. Life didn't go in a steady rhythm. Instead, it was full of bursts of anxiety, sleepless nights, and rushed, distracted moments that broke the gentle connection between the mortal and the divine. He saw families and communities try to chase light and time according to their own rules, making schedules and clocks that didn't pay much attention to how things naturally went. Days were full of things to do, but not of awareness. People slept less, worried more, and seemed to be going through life without the gentle guidance that the right times and perfect calendar used to give them. They seemed to have forgotten the quiet conversation between their hearts and the world above, the gentle connection that could make even the most boring hours feel bright, important, and healing. Enoch felt a deep ache for this loss, a quiet sadness that was like the stillness of the heavenly rivers. He had just walked along. It seemed like the angels were aware of the drift below, even though they were still guarding the appointed times. Enoch noticed small changes in their watchfulness, as if the guardians were paying more attention to human weakness. He knew that their watchfulness wasn't strict, but rather kind, as they tried to help and protect what humans were having trouble keeping up on their own. But there was still a big difference between order in the heavens and chaos on earth. Enoch felt a gentle need, not fear, but a desire for those who had lost their way to understand and find the calm, healing rhythms that brought life into harmony with the sun and stars. He thought of people who had forgotten to notice the sunrise, the changing of the seasons, the moons waxing and waning, and the gentle cycles that had once brought them peace and comfort. Every rhythm that was missed was a missed chance to rest, think, and reconnect with the soft, unseen hand of time that moved everything in a careful, planned way. Enoch felt the weight of these absences, the quiet sadness of days that went by without realizing their own sacred potential. Still, there was hope in this drift, a soft chance that awareness could come back to life and that people could once again tune in to the rhythm of the heavens. He thought about the lives of people who are always busy, who don't sleep well because they're worried, whose hearts race with unfinished tasks, and whose minds are restless and disconnected. Their fight took away some of the harmony of life, but Enoch felt a gentle comfort that the order of the heavens still stood. It had not stopped. The gates, the set times, and the perfect calendar were all part of their patient work, which was a quiet invitation for people to remember, stop, and get back on track. This constancy had a quiet magic about it, a promise that if people could slow down, breathe, and pay attention, they could feel the rhythm again, like a soft pulse beneath the noise of their lives. The separation was not just physical. It was also emotional, spiritual, and even mental. People had forgotten to trust that time would move slowly, that they should take their time during the day, that they should rest without feeling guilty, and that they should watch moments as they happened instead of rushing past them. Enoch said that when people lose this connection, the world feels heavier and more broken. He thought about how the earth would breathe, change, and make up for the lack of harmony. He also knew that the celestial rhythms above were a reflection of what could be restored below. Every lost rhythm left a faint echo in the world, a quiet longing for things to be right that could still be reached if only people paid attention again, even though he was watching the drift. Enoch felt comforted by Uriel's presence. The angel's soft light seemed to beat in time with the human heart, giving advice without forcing it and warmth without judging it. "They're not lost," Uriel whispered softly, and his voice sounded like a calm stream running through the chaos. "They just forgot to listen. They can hear again if their hearts stop for even a second. The beat is still there. It waits." Enoch felt these words settle in him, a quiet balm that reminded him of how calm he had felt among the stars, gates, and rivers. In the heavens, there was patience, a steady presence that showed the possibility of reconnecting and reminded us that time is both a teacher and a friend. He thought about the cycles of the earth, like how fields grow and rest, rivers follow their paths, and winds move with invisible hands. He realized that people are not separate from these patterns, but are instead deeply connected to them. The lost rhythm wasn't gone for good. It could be found again. Even the smallest moment of awareness, like looking at the sunrise or stopping to notice the moon's reflection, could bring back a thread of harmony, linking the mortal experience to the celestial guidance that never stopped. Enoch felt a gentle hope grow in his chest, a soft reminder that the drift was only temporary and that attention, even if it was late, could wake the soul up to the quiet music of the universe. Enoch felt the soft glow of Uriel's presence grow stronger. It was a quiet warmth that brought him comfort and a sense of seriousness. The angel's eyes seemed to hold the steady light of countless stars. They were calm but piercing, as if they were watching both the heavens and the earth below with endless patience. "Enoch," Uriel said, his voice low and deliberate, with a resonance that seemed to vibrate softly through the light around them. "There is a delicate balance in all things. Every step, thought, and choice matters much more than most people know." Enoch listened, feeling the weight of the words, which were spoken softly, without urgency or fear. Just truth. As the angel spoke, his glow pulsed a little, drawing Enoch's attention to the sun and moon's rhythms and the stars' arcs that marked the passing of days, months, and seasons. "When the timing is off," Uriel said, "even a heart with good intentions can trip. Even the wisest can falter if their steps are not in line with the appointed order." Enoch felt a chill at this realization. The idea that choices made quickly or without thought could have effects that go far beyond what he could understand at the time. He had seen the heavenly calendar, the perfect cycles that kept creation in sync. And now he started to see how fragile the human connection to these rhythms could be. Uriel's voice was steady, but it had a soft weight to it, like a gentle wind blowing through still branches. "The world below moves too quickly," the angel said softly, "because of distractions, desires, or forgetfulness. People miss the small signs, the quiet signals that tell them when it's time to act, think, or rest. Without awareness, even the simplest decisions can have big effects." Enoch's mind went back to the drift of humanity he had seen before, the busy lives, sleepless nights, and anxious hearts. He started to realize that losing his rhythm wasn't just a small mistake. It was a misalignment that could lead to choices that were very far from wisdom or grace. The stars above seemed to agree with Uriel's words by shimmering and moving silently along their exact paths. Enoch's eyes followed a gentle arc, taking in how each light moved slowly. This was a peaceful reminder that timing was important in all things, whether they were human or celestial. He could feel the pulse of the universe beneath him, steady and calm, which was very different from the restlessness below. Each moment in alignment had a quiet power and an ease that made it easy for choices to happen naturally and without stress. On the other hand, ignoring this rhythm caused small problems that could grow into much bigger ones that weren't immediately obvious. Uriel's eyes softened a little, a reminder to be careful and kind. "This is not a warning to scare you," the angel said softly. "It is a lesson to help you understand. Watch how time flows, how light and shadow move, and how each day slowly unfolds. Speak their language. When you do, you'll see that the heart can act in harmony. The mind can see clearly, and the spirit can find peace even when things are crazy." Enoch felt a wave of quiet awe. It was like the angel was telling a secret that wasn't written down or carved in stone, but was alive and breathing in the universe itself. Quiet guide for those who were willing to stop, look, and follow. He thought about the decisions people made without being aware of them, speaking too soon, missing chances, delaying kindness, and ignoring times to think. Uriel said that even small misalignments could change the course of life, causing a chain of events that were not meant to happen. Enoch thought about himself and how easy it would be for someone who was devoted but didn't know to act in ways that upset harmony, even if they meant well. The angel's presence, on the other hand, was not harsh or judgmental. It was a soft light that showed the way to attunement and gently urged people to notice the rhythm that had always been there and would always be there. The light from Uriel seemed to pulse in time with the universe's soft rhythm, and Enoch felt the rhythm grow stronger inside him, like a quiet echo of the patterns he had seen above. Uriel went on, "The appointed times are more than just markers. These are chances to align the heart, make good choices, and act kindly. Every moment has its own weight, and every step can either honor or break the flow. Listen closely, Enoch. The heart that is in tune with time moves with clarity, compassion, and understanding. The heart that drifts is easily swayed, even by good intentions." A soft hush fell over the light waves around them. Enoch could tell that Uriel's warning was both personal and inviting. He understood that timing wasn't a hard and fast rule or a rigid order. It was a subtle conversation between the self and the universe, a dance of awareness that needed stillness, focus, and faith. The angel's words hung in the quiet air, mixing with the soft hum of the stars. It was as if the universe itself had stopped to make the point. Alignment is important, and within it lies both peace and clarity. Enoch closed his eyes for a moment and felt the weight of understanding settle on him like a soft blanket. He understood that the drift of people and the loss of rhythm were not permanent. For those who could hear it, there was guidance both above and within. Uriel's soft warning was not a prediction of failure, but a bright signpost, a gentle turning point that called for careful attention and respect for the passage of time. Enoch felt a calm certainty in the quiet, between moments that even a small awareness of timing could change his choices and bring peace to both his heart and the world around him. Enoch walked quietly through the soft currents of light, feeling a calm presence all around him. The air seemed to shimmer with calm, a soft, steady glow that felt alive but didn't get in the way. He saw the angels in charge of the lights. Their shapes gave off a soft warmth, and they were patient and steady, each one a guardian of the heavenly order. They were quiet and didn't draw attention to themselves, but their presence carried a heavy burden of responsibility and a quiet dedication to the rhythm of the heavens. These angels moved with a gentle grace, each movement planned and measured, as if they had learned to copy the soft pulse of the stars themselves. Uriel led Enoch closer so he could see how each angel moved with the light. There was no rush or showy gesture. Instead, each being took care of something delicate but very important. Their loyalty wasn't loud or demanding. It was complete and based on a deep understanding of their purpose. Enoch saw them move streams of glowing energy, smooth arcs of light, and currents that humans could barely see, keeping everything in balance so that the universe could move slowly. It was a quiet symphony, a meditation on patience and care, played perfectly but without show. Enoch felt a deep sense of calm when they were there. He could tell that these angels were more than just protectors. They were part of a cosmic rhythm and partners with creation itself. They knew what was expected of them. Each light they guided and each star they watched over got their full attention. A soft vigilance that kept the universe moving without any problems. The angels were a picture of the peace of the heavens, a sign of what could happen when time and purpose are respected and duty is done with care instead of force. But even in their calm, Enoch felt a tension that was almost unnoticeable, like the faint echo of a distant note vibrating through the light. The angels kept an eye on not only the present, but also anything that might upset the peace. They were aware of their movements and were able to notice even the smallest misalignment or deviation from the set paths. It was a quiet change from the lives of those below, where rhythm was lost and decisions were made without thinking about when they should be made. Enoch was both amazed and a little scared. He knew that their patience, while strong, was not infinite, and that forces that didn't know or didn't want to follow the cosmic cadence could threaten the harmony they had worked so hard to keep. Uriel's gentle direction made him look at how the angels and the lights they cared for were connected. Enoch noticed that each angel's focus was both sharp and flexible, a mix of discipline and responsiveness. They weren't strict in their care. They were flexible, changing as the needs of the celestial bodies changed, making corrections without causing problems, and giving guidance without getting in the way. He learned a deep lesson from their movement. The peace of the heavens depended not on power, but on being aware, on quietly devoting oneself to a role greater than oneself. They were loyal not because they were told to be, but because they understood the fragile order that kept all life going. He saw the small differences between the angels. Some were in charge of the slow arcs of faraway stars, others were in charge of the soft glow of the moons, and still others were in charge of the sunlight that warmed the ground below. Each had its own job, but they all moved together in an unspoken dance that balanced action with patience. Enoch saw that even among these peaceful beings, there were differences, but because they all understood their duty and purpose, they were able to work together as one. Their calm focus stood in stark contrast to the restlessness below, reminding us of what can be done when attention, patience, and understanding come together. The peaceful angels were quiet and strong, keeping both beauty and order. It was as if they were bridges, linking the wide-open sky with the fragile flows of time and light. Enoch knew that their loyalty would be tested not when things were calm, but when things got tough and the changes threatened to upset the delicate balance they had worked so hard to keep. They moved slowly and without making a big deal out of it, but there was a strength behind it all, a willingness to keep things peaceful even when things went wrong. Enoch felt a deep connection to their quiet devotion as he walked among them. He knew that their job wasn't just to watch, but also to protect, care for, and lead. They were living examples of patience and purpose, and they showed how calm things could be when you focus on the things that are important to you with love and care. But he knew that the peace around him was fragile, and that the angels' loyalty and watchfulness would soon be put to the test, which could threaten the harmony they had worked so hard to build. But for now, the heavens moved in perfect, quiet harmony, with each angel doing their job. Their steady presence was a soft reminder that order still existed. Even when things were uncertain, Enoch kept moving through the softly glowing currents of the heavens, feeling a delicate tension ripple through the light around him. The angels in charge of the stars moved with care, but a small disturbance had begun to weave through the flow of the heavens. At first it was quiet, almost unnoticeable, like a small tremor in a still pond. But Enoch could tell that something was changing. The watchers, angels who were supposed to guide the lights, were starting to go off course. They didn't rebel harshly or get angry about their duty. Instead, they slowly drifted off course, following their curiosity and desire down paths that weren't meant for them. Enoch's heart was full of both awe and worry. He knew how serious it was to go off course, but he wasn't angry at the watchers. He thought of them as beings who could see deeply, but who were also affected by longing, fascination, and maybe even a kind of loneliness that came with having so much knowledge. They had seen the beauty of the worlds below and the mysteries of human life, and they were drawn to things they shouldn't have touched. As they wandered, they seemed almost human, with a desire to see, understand, and experience things that were beyond what they were told they could do. Uriel's presence next to him gave him a quiet sense of peace, but the angel's glow had a slight weight to it. Uriel said softly, like a gentle current, even the wisest can make mistakes. Even the devoted may be tempted to leave the path when beauty and wonder call to them. Enoch, this is what freedom and responsibility mean. Choices matter, even for those closest to the light. Enoch listened closely, picturing the watchers as kind beings who had lost their rhythm not out of anger, but out of desire. Their deviation caused ripples, and he started to see how easily balance could be lost when someone stopped doing what they were supposed to do. The stars, which are usually steady and unchanging, now twinkled in a different way. Some shone with a quiet brilliance, while others dimmed a little, and their paths were no longer perfectly aligned with the great arcs above. Enoch felt an emotional weight in this change. It wasn't a loud clash, but a quiet, deep sadness that seemed to echo across the heavens. It was the soft sadness of missed opportunities and a little bit of broken harmony. The watchers weren't bad people. They were just explorers of dangerous waters, going to places that had unexpected effects. But their presence brought a strange beauty, a hint of freedom and curiosity that made Enoch's heart ache with both understanding and fear. He thought about how the watchers were looking down at the earth and being fascinated by how complicated it is and how fragile human life is. They were amazed by feelings, relationships, and the small, private moments of life that were so different from the big patterns of the stars. They weren't guided by cruelty or rebellion. They were guided by curiosity. Enoch quietly understood these beings, because he knew that even those made for order could feel the pull of wonder and trip over the unknown. Their soft deviation echoed the human heart's desire to reach beyond the known and touch what seemed just out of reach. The conflict between duty and desire grew stronger, even though it was hard to see. Enoch could feel it in the air around him, in the tiny changes in light and energy, and in the quiet movements of angels who had not strayed. The watchers wandering had a quiet sadness about it, as if they knew they had caused trouble but couldn't help but follow the call of what drew them away. Enoch thought about how everything in the universe was connected, how the heavens and the earth were intertwined, and how even small changes could have big effects on people, stars, and the flow of time. Uriel led him to a place where he could clearly see the stars that were going the wrong way. They moved through the sky in gentle, slow arcs, changing direction without rushing or being aggressive. There was no chaos here, just a small change in the rhythm of creation. Enoch felt the weight of understanding settle around him. The Watcher's choice was a reminder that freedom came with responsibility, and that even in the most beautiful places, desire and curiosity could change the flow of harmony. But there was no fear or punishment in the air. There was a quiet lesson happening slowly, like the changing of the seasons or the soft fading of moonlight. Enoch felt sorry for the Watchers because of the delicate balance between choice and consequence, as well as the beauty and danger that come with every act of focus or distraction. In this calm tension, he started to understand the deep truth that even the way stars and angels move can teach us about the depth of responsibility, the weight of alignment, and the quiet need to watch the flow of light with respect and care. Enoch watched in quiet awe as the lights that had once danced gracefully through the sky slowly came down. Their brilliance dimmed but still there, softly restrained beneath the dark mountains. They didn't fall violently or in fear. Instead, they fell slowly, settling into a new, limited place. The Watchers wandering had not gone unnoticed, and the divine order had told them to rest in this stillness. Enoch could feel the weight of their patience and understanding in their imprisonment, as if the heavens had whispered to him, "Even when we stray, there is room to learn. Even when brilliance is confined, it still glows quietly." The mountains that held these fallen lights were huge and quiet. Their peaks and valleys were full of shadows that made the light softer without putting it out. Enoch wasn't scared here. He was just very sad, a gentle reminder of how fragile harmony is. The stars, which used to be able to move freely along their paths, now stayed still under the heavy weight of duty. They softly shone against the shadows of the mountains, a muted echo of their former brilliance, a quiet lesson for anyone who saw or heard them. It was like the universe itself had stopped to take a breath, think, and teach. Uriel's voice broke the silence in a calm and thoughtful way. He said, "Even the brightest lights need help, direction, and time to learn again when they lose their way. Enoch, their brilliance hasn't gone away. It's just been tempered by understanding. Freedom has weight, and abusing it teaches more softly than harsh punishment ever could." Enoch took this in, feeling the truth wash over him. The fall of the lights was not shame or anger, but a calm example of cause and effect, a quiet echo of choices made outside of order, and the small effect of straying from rhythm and duty. He watched as the lights that were trapped below the mountains stuck to their paths. Each flicker of brilliance seemed to say that there was still potential, knowledge, and insight waiting patiently to be released. There was a calm dignity in their rest, a silent acceptance of their changed path, and a soft acknowledgement of lessons learnt, not through force, but through reflection and stillness. Enoch felt the soft resonance of this moment, sensing the quiet link between understanding and consequence, between being out of alignment and having the chance to get back in balance. The mountains themselves seemed to hum with a soft resonance, taking in the energy of the lights that were held back, holding it gently, neither pushing it away nor ignoring it, just letting the brilliance exist within limits. Enoch thought about how the stars above were watching, continuing their silent arcs. This was a quiet reminder that the balance of the universe depended on both freedom and restraint, on movement and pause, on choice and careful thought. There was a soft rhythm to this containment, like a lullaby that told of patience, learning, and eventual restoration. As he thought about the human parallel, Enoch's heart ached a little. How often did people stray from their own paths because of curiosity, desire, or distraction? How often did decisions that were meant to be good have unexpected effects that needed time, thought, and care to fix? He realized that the fallen lights under the mountains weren't a story of failure, but a quiet lesson about how fragile life is, how important it is to be aware, and how gentle the consequences are when rhythm is lost. Each imprisoned light glimmered with quiet hope, a reminder that even in restriction, there is the potential for learning and eventual alignment. The watchers didn't look broken or defeated. They just looked subdued. Enoch felt a soft connection with them because he understood the quiet sadness of being limited and the honor of accepting the path that had to be taken for healing. Even though they were contained, their light stayed bright. It was a quiet beauty that said that brilliance and purpose can live on even when the course is changed. He understood that restraint wasn't punishment in the strictest sense, but rather a natural guide, a nurturing pause that allowed him to think. Enoch thought about how these heavenly lessons were like human hearts as he stayed there. The watchers wandering had effects, and so did the choices people made. Sometimes the effects were small, and other times they were big. But even when things went wrong, there was still a chance to learn, grow, and eventually come together. The lights were not walls or prisons in a cruel way. They were places of quiet restoration where brilliance could exist safely, learn its place, and wait for the gentle guidance that would let it shine fully again. Enoch remembered that everything, both heavenly and earthly, has a rhythm, a purpose, and a potential even when things go wrong. The lights under the mountains weren't gone. They were just learning how heavy freedom is, how cause and effect work, and how strong patience can be. Enoch felt a soft calm settle around him, a hush that promised understanding, reflection, and the quiet hope that even those who stray can find their way back to harmony, guided by love, patience, and the steady pulse of the universe itself. Enoch walked through the softly glowing lights of heaven, thinking about the rhythm that had once linked all living things. People on the ground had been quietly following the patterns of the sky. Their lives were in sync with the days, the rising and setting of the sun, the moon's slow movement, and the stars' unbroken path. Long before there were busy cities and noisy machines, they lived in harmony with the rhythm of the stars, taking their time to observe and changing their lives to match the pulse of creation itself. This understanding brought a sense of peace and warmth that came from being connected to something much bigger than themselves. The people who kept the calendar, both men and women, were chosen to watch, write down, and honor the patterns above. They had a quiet wisdom, They weren't scholars in the modern sense, and they weren't looking for fame. Their lives were instead quiet acts of devotion, focus, and thought. They kept a harmony that lasted through the generations, with every careful measurement and soft look at the heavens. Enoch thought of them getting up with the sun, counting the days, and saying prayers of thanks for the light and warmth, their hearts in sync with the universe's quiet order. Their devotion was simple, and their gentle discipline made life softer and calmer, something that modern minds often lose in the chaos of too many things to do. Enoch saw these keepers as a reflection of what heaven wanted in its own way. The 364-day cycle, the predictable change of months, and the slow change of seasons were not random patterns. They were living threads that made up the fabric of life. In its earliest forms, people knew that following these rhythms brought peace, calm, and a small connection to the divine. There was no need to do more than what was necessary, and there was no need to go faster than what was natural. Days, nights, months, and seasons were friends, gentle guides, and soft reminders that life could be beautiful if you paid attention to it, appreciated it, and respected it. The keeper's wisdom went beyond just watching. Enoch thought they would teach children the names of stars when festivals happen, and how the months line up with holy days. They would do this gently and without force. Their voices were soft, not commanding, and their lessons were simple, engaging, and full of stories that linked people's lives to the paths of the stars. Enoch felt a warm sense of nostalgia for this long-lost harmony. He was happy to know that people used to walk gently with the rhythms of heaven, carrying a peace that came from knowing when to act, when to rest, and when to think. He thought about how these early keepers kept track of the solstices, equinoxes, and the moon's phases. People honored each event with respect, not show, as a way to honor the ongoing conversation between heaven and earth. People learned how to be patient, trust others, and time things just right through these small rituals. There was no need for strict rules or harsh teaching. The universe itself gave advice, and those who watched with open hearts found their lives richer, more in line, and softer with understanding. Enoch admired their patience in a gentle way, thinking about how their calm attention kept the balance between human life and the huge machinery in the sky. These rhythms were in sync with even the most basic tasks, like planting, harvesting, and resting. Enoch saw hands smoothing the ground in the soft light of dawn, and hearts rising with the gentle light of the rising sun. He thought about families sleeping under the moon at night. Its silver glow reminded them that time and light moved in patterns they could trust. The keeper's work was more than just measuring. It was a lived experience of alignment, a soft song of continuity, and a quiet expression of thanks for the orderly universe. Enoch thought about how different things are now, when clocks, schedules, and noise often take the place of the natural rhythm. He could feel the desire for that simplicity, the unseen pull towards a time when people took their time and appreciated the flow of life. The ancient calendar keepers gave people more than just knowledge. They gave them a way to fully experience life, to feel the universe's gentle heartbeat beneath their own, and to move in time with the soft pulse of creation. Enoch could still hear the echoes of their lessons, even though he was standing among the heavenly lights. The harmony that the keepers kept alive still echoed through the heavens, soft but deep. It made him remember that peace and alignment don't last forever, and that just watching and understanding can change not only people's lives, but also the course of light and time. The angels around him, the stars above, and the watchers who had gone astray all seemed to hum softly in response to the wisdom that people had once carried. It was a song about balance, patience, and connection. It whispered softly about how life could flow with grace when hearts learnt to follow the rhythm of the stars. After the great waters went down, Enoch looked at the world. The land was scarred but glimmered in a soft, renewing light. Life's rhythm had changed. People came out, their hearts and minds touched by survival. But the fragile balance of time, which had been carefully followed, started to shift. They slowly forgot the calendars they had gotten from the ancient keepers. Instead, they made quick decisions based on what they needed right away instead of what was best for the heavens. The peaceful rhythm of days and seasons had been broken, and a quiet tension began to spread through human life. The survivors worked hard to rebuild homes and fields, but they didn't move with the gentle rhythm of the stars. They planted, harvested, and rested based on instinct and need, not on the gentle movement of the sun, moon, and stars. Enoch could feel the subtle unrest in this change. It wasn't loud or violent, but it had a weight that slowly spread. People started to get restless. Their nights were full of sleeplessness, and their days were full of stress and hurry. The calm pulse of creation that had once been felt and honored was replaced by a broken echo, and the world seemed a little off, as if a gentle wind had changed the natural order. The angels who watched over people whispered to each other, and their voices sounded like leaves rustling in the night. They saw that calendars were getting out of sync, festivals were getting out of sync, and the small chaos that grew when hearts no longer moved in time with the light. Enoch walked among them, feeling both sad and understanding. The people weren't stupid. They had survived a disaster and held deep wisdom in their hands, but the trauma and urgency of life had pulled them away from what had once been a simple, steady guide. Even the smartest people among them couldn't completely fix the gentle flow of time because the pattern was fragile and had already been broken. He thought about how kids used to learn to follow the orders of the stars, to get up with the sun, sleep under the moon, and marvel at and honor the changing seasons. These lessons were now broken. Days were spent working and nights were spent worrying, and the meaning of holy time faded away. Enoch's heart ached quietly for the lost sense of peace and alignment that had once been natural and easy to find. There was a lesson here, subtle but strong. When people's hearts and minds stray from the order of the heavens, chaos can happen, not with thunder or fire, but gently and steadily, like ripples on still water. The flood changed more than just the land. It changed how people saw things, putting them in a state of survival and awareness. Enoch said that even the most devoted and careful people can make mistakes when they let their desire and urgency get the best of them, and forget the gentle guidance of light and time. The days were no longer even, the months were no longer sure, and even the stars above them seemed to be a little less aligned. The harmony that had once brought peace now flickered, and Enoch realized that even the simplest lives could get out of order if they weren't carefully watched and followed the quiet, steady rhythm. He walked through fields that had just been plowed and saw people moving with purpose, but not to the soft beat of old rhythms. People were scared of the unknown, tired from working, and had a little bit of impatience in their hearts. The connection between human effort and divine timing, which used to bring peace and productivity, became weaker. It felt like everything was a little off, like life was a gentle melody that wasn't quite right. Crops were planted too early or too late. Harvests didn't line up with rain and warmth. and work and rest came and went in a strange way. But Enoch didn't give up hope. He understood deeply how weak and strong people could be at the same time. The lesson of the drift was calm, soft, and full of meaning. Misalignment didn't take away the beauty of life. It just made it clearer how important it is to pay attention, be patient, and respect the rules that govern both human and celestial life. The sky above kept dancing, slowly and steadily, waiting for hearts to start paying attention again and minds to learn. The gentle art of harmony again. The angels looked like they were all sighing at the same time, and their soft light showed both sadness and hope. They gently led the way, reminding people that the divine rhythm was still there, waiting to be seen, and still able to calm the hearts of those who were willing to notice. Enoch felt the lesson's gentle weight in his own heart. He understood that chaos was not punishment, but a gentle reminder that straying from divine order had consequences. Life could go on in a beautiful way, but only if the rhythm of heaven was respected again. Enoch realized how deeply time, light, and human hearts are all connected through this quiet disruption. He saw families, travelers, and workers moving under the skies. Their steps were a little quick, and they weren't paying attention, but they could find their way back to alignment if they stopped to look, think, and trust the soft guidance of the celestial order. He felt both empathy and hope in this soft, almost lullaby-like realization. He knew that even after disaster, the rhythm could be restored and harmony could fill the hearts of those who looked up with care and attention. Enoch looked up at the stars as they moved across the dark sky, following their slow, steady paths as they did their jobs. Every point of light seemed to be more than just a light. It was a quiet note in a huge, cosmic ledger, a soft sign of events that happened in both heaven and on earth. He understood that the universe held memory not in words, but in rhythm, in motion, and in the soft, never-ending dance of light. Every time the sun rose, a star passed by, or the moon grew and shrank. It recorded events in ways that were both subtle and deep, capturing not only the patterns of nature, but also the heartbeats of people. There was a whisper in the movement of the stars that was almost too quiet to hear. It was a soft stream of messages meant for people who were willing to pay attention. Enoch felt the weight of this knowledge, not as a burden, but as a gentle call to listen. The heavens were patient record keepers, noting choices, watching intentions unfold, and tracing the interplay of light and shadow with the precision of care, yet with a tenderness that spoke more of guidance than of judgment. He thought of the soft flicker of a star far away as a sign, a gentle reminder of a life lived in harmony, or maybe a quiet lament for paths that went astray. Not in strict law, but in rhythm and movement were the records of heaven. The way the stars lined up had a natural poetry to it, like the way people's hearts rise and fall. Enoch knew that even the smallest mistake or the quietest act of faith or doubt was seen and added to this delicate tapestry. Nothing was lost and nothing was forced. The heavens just kept track of everything, keeping the essence of every moment in a soft, unbroken memory that could guide, warn, and comfort. He could feel Uriel's soft presence next to him, and the angel's quiet glow blended perfectly with the night. The heavens carry messages, Uriel said in a calm, intimate voice, not with force. They show how life flows, how people make choices, and how intention and consequence unfold. Watch and learn to read not just with your eyes, but with your heart. Enoch listened, taking in the weight of this lesson. He felt that everything he saw was connected, and that even in the quiet arcs above, prophecy moved like a gentle current, shaping understanding without noise or demand. The stars above moved in small ways, making shapes that could be missed if you looked too quickly. But they told stories of longing, hope, and caution. Enoch saw the echoes of choices made long ago, and he could still feel the soft sound of their effects below. The sky wasn't scary. It was a calm mirror that showed both what had happened and what might happen. Enoch felt a sense of humility in this knowledge, a quiet awe at how precise and patient creation was. He also knew that prophecy, when delivered in such a subtle way, taught its lessons more deeply than any spoken word could. He imagined people living under this tapestry, moving without knowing it, but still being part of the rhythm, their lives gently affected by the events recorded above. Even when choices went against God's plan, even when calendars changed and harmony broke down, the heavens stayed patient, softly noting and giving insight to those who could stop and look. It was a record of care, intention, and subtle guidance that reminded Enoch that nothing was beyond observation, but everything was still being watched over in a quiet way. Enoch's thoughts turned to how everything was connected. The eternal ledger above held the rise and fall of empires, the quiet acts of kindness, the moments of reflection, and even the hearts that went off course. Every movement of light and every turn of the celestial sphere seemed to hum with understanding. It was a soft, unassuming lullaby for the patient observer, a gentle proof that the cosmos itself witnessed the rhythm and choices of life. The prophetic undertone of these signs wasn't loud or demanding. It had a soft, emotional weight that touched the heart more than the mind. As Enoch stood under the night sky, he felt it, a soft reminder of purpose and consequence, a quiet message that connected heaven and earth with a web of light and intention. The stars, the sun, and the moon all spoke without words. But Enoch understood more than he ever had from books or speech alone. There was something beautiful about how patiently this record-keeping was done. It taught me how time slowly unfolds. The heavens did not lose hope even when things went wrong or got out of place. Instead, they took note of what happened, kept it in mind, and kept their gentle arc going, giving hints of healing, support, and understanding. Enoch felt calm, knowing that even when things went wrong down below, the tapestry above stayed the same, carefully recording events with memory and a sweet, lullaby-like tenderness. The night stretched around him, still and soft, as if the universe itself were breathing quietly. Enoch lingered in the presence of these celestial signs, absorbing the gentle rhythm of prophecy, the quiet depth of recording, and the emotional resonance of a cosmos that watched, remembered, and softly guided. It was a lesson in love, patience, and attention. It reminded me that even on the darkest or most confusing nights, the heavens were watching carefully, whispering truths in light and movement, and waiting for hearts that were willing to listen. Enoch walked slowly through the softly glowing currents of light, which felt like a calm river that brought him warmth and understanding. Every step seemed to reveal a deeper part of the heavens, a hidden part that pulsed with meaning and rhythm. Uriel's presence next to him was calming. It reminded him that he was being guided, not rushed, and that the mysteries revealed were not meant to overwhelm him, but to make him think quietly. The light seemed to form shapes that whispered knowledge in a way that was almost like a lullaby as he went deeper. The first revelation came slowly, as time itself began to fold in on itself. Enoch felt like time was stretching and contracting, but not in a chaotic way. It was in a perfect, planned order that he had only seen before. He understood that every choice, every action, and every small intention had an effect on the fragile fabric of life. The knowledge was heavy, but it wasn't scary. It felt like the weight of responsibility was wrapped in light, which brought a sense of peace that calmed the soul. Enoch took slow, deep breaths, letting the weight of this new knowledge sink in. He felt that his own life and purpose were now connected to the eternal pulse of creation. Uriel led him to the bright spirals that held knowledge of cycles that normal people couldn't see. The stars' movements, the planets' rotations, and the moon and sun's small changes all came together to make a living map of time. Every move and every pattern showed purpose, direction, and a gentle warning. Aligning with the celestial order was not just a matter of measurement, but of heart. Enoch's mind tried to hold it all, but instead of confusion, he felt a growing sense of peace that came from understanding. The universe was huge, complicated, and always patient, slowly revealing its truths to those who were willing to see them. He floated next to rivers of soft golden light, each stream showing him memories and visions of how things came to be. Enoch saw small and large choices that people had made and the small effects they had had on people over generations. He felt a calm sense of duty, a calm weight, knowing that this knowledge was not his to use for power, but to help him understand. It was as if the heavens had entrusted him with a mirror, reflecting the paths of humanity and the consequences of alignment and drift. But the light around him made the duty feel less like a burden and more like a gentle call, an invitation to carry awareness with care and humility. As he went on, more and more mysterious things came to light. The glowing spheres showed how time flows and how mortal lives are connected to heavenly order. Enoch witnessed the harmony that had once existed, the subtle disruptions, and the quiet ways that order could be restored. He felt a profound empathy for human fragility, understanding that wandering from rhythm was natural, yet that rediscovery of alignment could bring immeasurable peace. The light was teaching him how to be patient, how to observe, and how to be quietly strong by holding knowledge responsibly, without rushing or making noise, just letting understanding grow slowly. The air, if you could call it that, sparkled with patterns that moved in soft waves. Enoch could tell that these weren't just instructions. They were living beings that were softly watching, gently reminding, and patiently waiting for people to pay attention. As he went deeper into these layers, he realized that divine responsibility wasn't about having power over others, but about being aware. It was a calm stewardship of understanding, an awareness of how everything is connected, and the need for soft vigilance. Enoch's heart swelled with respect as he realized that he was being prepared to carry knowledge that could inspire, guide, and light the way without ever forcing it. He got to a point where the light came together in a quiet, beautiful bloom. He saw the most hidden mysteries here, the cycles of the stars coming and going, the subtle connections between them, and the rhythm of life that was too big for ordinary eyes to see. Each revelation was important, but the mood was so calm and peaceful that the heaviness felt like warmth instead of pressure. Enoch knew that he needed to trust in the flow of time, the wisdom of heaven, and the quiet persistence of divine order in order to understand these mysteries. Uriel's soft, bright voice reminded him that knowledge was a friend, not a command, and that gaining insight through observation and reflection came with both freedom and a sense of duty. Enoch felt a deep sense of peace from this teaching, as well as the deep but gentle balance between knowing and doing. He floated among the moving lights, taking in the universe's rhythm and the heaviness and beauty of his calling. Each insight was like a star shining in his mind, showing him paths he had not yet walked and giving him comfort in its slow, steady brilliance. As he stood there, Enoch felt a gentle end to everything he had seen: the patterns of the sun, moon, stars, the ebb and flow of human rhythm, and the quiet, patient recording of heaven. It was a heavy awareness, yes, but it was also wrapped in a soft light that gently invited people to take care of their understanding, walk with humility, and carry knowledge like a candle through darkness, not to command, but to gently, softly, and steadily light the way. Enoch slowly came down from the soft, glowing rivers of the heavens. He felt a sense of gravity that gently pressed on his heart. He had seen the rhythms, mysteries, and delicate orchestration of light and time in the worlds above. Now he was back on earth, in human life, in the noisy, busy, and often restless world below. Not in body, but in spirit, each step felt heavier than the last. He had a lot of knowledge that was deep, subtle, and tender. He knew that sharing it would be difficult because people might not be ready to handle what he had seen. He walked through familiar landscapes, with the hills and valleys bathed in a quiet twilight. The difference hit him hard. Up there, the heavens moved in perfect harmony, with every motion planned and every light important. Below, people's lives had changed, calendars had changed, and hearts beat in a broken rhythm. Enoch felt a pang of sadness and a quiet ache for how fragile human awareness is, but he knew that his burden was not a punishment, but a calling. How do you turn the language of stars into words? How do you bring the pulse of the universe into hearts that had become restless and distracted? The question itself pushed gently against his chest. He saw signs of what was lost, and what could still be fixed everywhere he looked. Fields waited for hands that knew what to do, communities came together in a time of uncertainty, and children laughed without knowing the gentle timing of the celestial order that once held their ancestors. Enoch felt the weight of these options, the chance for things to get better or worse. He understood that his return was more than just a trip from heaven to earth. It was the link between the calm wisdom above and the busy lives below. He knew that people had to walk that bridge with patience, humility, and a lot of empathy. He thought about how to tell people what he had seen as he traveled through towns and villages. The stories of sun, moon, stars, and angels could not simply be spoken as facts. They were lived experiences, woven with emotion, rhythm, and gentle guidance. Enoch felt the pressure of turning divine memory into human language. He knew that words could only capture a small part of the complexity, and that the depth of celestial order might be lost on those who weren't ready to feel it, instead of analyze it. The knowledge was heavy not because it was burdened with power, but because it demanded understanding, reflection, and an openness of heart. He thought of Uriel's calm presence and the quiet voice that had led him through the bright currents, and he tried to keep that calmness inside himself. The angels had not hurried him, nor had they forced understanding. They had allowed him to observe, absorb, and internalize the truths at a gentle pace. Now, on earth, he realized that he must extend the same patience to humanity, allowing them to glimpse what he had seen without crushing them under the weight of revelation. The soft responsibility of stewardship was clear. He could illuminate, but he could not compel comprehension. Every night, as he slept under familiar stars, Enoch felt the glow of the heavens, which reminded him of what he had been given. He mentally followed their paths, paying attention to their rhythm, their messages, and the lessons that were hidden in their quiet order. The celestial patterns that had been so natural above now became a puzzle to interpret and share below. He knew that his burden was both a gift and a challenge. It was a gift because he had seen the beautiful dance of creation. And it was a challenge because he had to be careful, understanding, and gentle when he shared that beauty, even in moments of solitude. He felt the weight pressing softly, a mixture of reverence and anxiety. How do I tell humanity what I saw? He wondered again, feeling the question echo through the quiet hours. The burden was not despairing. It was tender, as if each memory of light and order sought to guide rather than demand. He thought about the faces of the people he would teach and how the rhythm of the sun, moon, and stars could open their hearts. He also thought about the hearts that weren't ready yet. And that tension, the thin line between being ready and revealing, weighed on him like a soft, steady pulse. Enoch understood that having knowledge wasn't the same as sharing it right away. The weight was in getting ready, being patient, and quietly growing in understanding. He walked slowly through the crowd, feeling the rhythms of their lives. He noticed how hearts and minds moved in different ways and understood that his job was to gently guide people towards alignment, protect their wisdom, and not crush it under pressure. The weight wasn't just a burden. It was a call to feel, think, and take on some responsibility as time went on. He learned to carry it more lightly, letting the weight become a presence that comforted and guided him instead of pressing down on him and holding him back. He still had the knowledge of the heavens above, the bright paths, and the subtle messages. It was a quiet, glowing responsibility. Enoch felt the deep beauty of being given insight in that soft tension. He knew that some burdens were meant to be gentle, reflective, and quietly transformative, not rushed, forced, or feared. Enoch worked quietly, carefully placing each word in his writings. But his movements seemed almost automatic, as if the soft currents of the heavens he had traveled through were guiding him. The scrolls he made were more than just ink and parchment. They held the rhythm of the stars, the soft pulse of the sun and moon, and the slow flow of divine time. Every line and symbol seemed to hum with quiet authority, not demanding attention but inviting it, like a lullaby that whispered truths into a still night. He felt the weight of knowing that these writings were fragile in the hands of the world. But they also had a light that could last if they were kept safe and cared for. The scrolls started their journey into a world that had lost its heavenly rhythm once they were done. Enoch didn't know how they would make it through the ups and downs of human history. But he had faith in a quiet God. They were given to people who knew how important they were. And slowly but surely, the scrolls found a safe place in a land known for its devotion, where they were held gently against the march of time. Ethiopia became a guardian, a quiet steward that kept the bright wisdom safe without making a big deal out of it. It kept it wrapped in calm respect as centuries passed and civilizations rose and fell. The silence in which they were held was like the quiet stillness of the heavens, which let the words keep their quiet power. Enoch felt both relieved and sad as he watched the scrolls being taken to safety. He knew that even divine knowledge needed protection, time, and quiet care. The world below was loud and busy, but here, in the soft shadow of devoted guardianship, the rhythm of the heavens could last. The scrolls were not only kept safe physically, but also emotionally and spiritually, wrapped in an understanding that people could respect the delicate balance of their meaning. Enoch was very thankful for this sanctuary because he knew that the messages he had carefully traced would one day light up the hearts of those who were ready to see them. He thought about the mystery of preservation itself. How could something so old and beautiful stay hidden in a place where most people couldn't see it? The answer wasn't luck. It was quiet intention, hands that moved with respect and awareness, and the slow, patient heartbeat of a culture that saw value in the unseen. Ethiopia held the scrolls like a secret lullaby, keeping their pulse safe from the storm of people forgetting. Enoch felt a deep love for this act because he knew that keeping things safe was a form of love, and that some truths needed gentle care to grow when the time was right. Enoch felt the eternal rhythm of the heavens echoing inside him as he thought about the scrolls resting in their safe place. The bright rivers above had shown the patterns of the sun, moon, and stars. Now, they seemed to be connected to the quiet guardianship below. The knowledge being kept was in harmony, and it was comforting to know that even though people might not follow God's timing, some things would last, patiently waiting for hearts to wake up. Enoch felt both gratitude and wonder because he knew that the universe itself seemed to work in small ways to protect what was most important, often in silence and without being seen, but always there. The scrolls were not just records. They were also invitations. People who would find them and open the parchment one day would feel the soft glow of understanding, the gentle rhythm of alignment, and the gentle reminders of responsibility. Enoch thought about how future readers would quietly open the texts and feel a small change in their awareness, a gentle push towards harmony and focus. The scrolls held the sounds of the heavens, but they did so in a gentle way that let understanding grow slowly, without stress or pressure. Enoch felt the quiet presence of the preserved scrolls even as he walked among people in the world below. They were a bridge between what he had seen in the bright currents and the human heart, which would one day need to see, understand, and follow. The rhythm of the heavenly order, which was once impossible to see, could now be seen and felt in different times and places, making people feel better, helping them understand, and giving them comfort. It was a gift that would last forever, wrapped in silence and not a show of grandeur. It was a sign of patience, care, and subtlety. As Enoch thought about the fragile chain that had carried the scrolls through the years, he felt very humble. Guardians didn't act out of recognition or reward. They acted out of understanding, respect, and a gentle promise. In that soft, quiet duty, the words stayed, echoing the peaceful light of heaven. A reminder that some knowledge needed patience, trust, and quiet watchfulness. He wasn't just carrying the memory of what he had seen. He was also carrying the faith that it would get to those who were ready, wrapped in a grace that spoke louder than any sense of urgency. Enoch walked under the familiar night sky, and each star above him was a quiet reminder of how things used to be. He remembered the rivers of light he had seen and how the sun, moon, and stars moved slowly and patiently. He imagined a day when people might be able to move in time with that rhythm again. The thought wasn't pushy or boastful. It was soft, like a whisper through the leaves. It was a peaceful picture of what could be if people remembered the delicate harmony that had always been above. He felt the pulse of possibility in the stillness of that night. It was a low hum that told him that even in the midst of chaos, the world held a memory of balance, waiting to be gently rediscovered. He thought about how the world had changed, how people's lives had become more scattered, rushed, and anxious. Cities were lit up with lights that were almost as bright as the stars. But in all the brightness, people forgot about the quiet rhythm of the heavens. The seasons, which used to be a guide and a teacher, had been replaced by fake markers, and people were getting impatient because they weren't in touch with the subtle pulse of time. But Enoch didn't lose hope. He held on to the hope that balance would not be lost forever, that it was possible to remember, and that even in small moments of quiet thought, He could feel the old order, even if only for a short time. Like a soft song remembered in a dream, he heard faint echoes of the harmony he knew as he walked among people. At dusk, kids laughed without knowing the exact patterns above them. But their happiness followed a natural, instinctive rhythm. Farmers stopped to watch the sun set, and travelers were amazed by the crescent moon rising over distant hills. In those moments, the ancient order still affected people's lives, even though they didn't realize it. Enoch knew that remembering didn't always mean being fully aware. Sometimes, all it took was a gentle nudge in the heart to start a moment of alignment in the human soul. He thought about the scrolls he had given to Ethiopia and the bright wisdom that had been passed down through the years. They weren't just words on a page. They were seeds of understanding that were waiting for hearts that were ready to learn from them. And he envisioned a day when those seeds would bloom, when human lives, often chaotic and distracted, would once again trace the rhythm of the celestial currents. The stars above, the sun's steady path, and the soft cycles of the moon would all become familiar again. Instead of being a strict system, they would be felt deeply as a lullaby of the cosmos. Enoch saw connections to modern life in his reflection. People often felt tired from the rush of days, the constant noise, and the brief moments of connection. They wanted peace but didn't know where to find it. But he realized that the answer was always there, quietly guiding him if he could just slow down enough to see it. The order of the heavens, which could be seen in the small movements of nature, was not a strict set of rules, but a way to gently guide people. It wasn't about being perfect. It was about being aware, being in sync, and letting intention flow gently over impulse. He thought that people would slowly wake up to this idea, each person finding the alignment that had been lost in small, gentle ways. Maybe it would start with quietly watching the sun rise, noticing the full moon, or feeling the soft rhythm of the seasons as they change. Every moment would be a quiet reminder, a gentle tie to the balance that had always been there but was hard to see. Enoch felt a serene anticipation, not of immediate transformation, but of patient unfolding, like dawn gradually spilling light across a landscape that had been shrouded in night. He knew that remembering was not just a personal thing, but a group thing, even as he thought about the future. People from all over the world, from different generations and cultures, would need to wake up together to feel the subtle guidance in the world's rhythms and honor it with care. He imagined wise old people talking about the stars, parents stopping to look at the moon with their kids, and scholars treating the scrolls with respect instead of ambition. These small actions would slowly bring back the long-lost order, like a soft, constant whisper that would reconnect earth and sky. Enoch felt the echo of hope inside him in the stillness of twilight. Harmony wasn't just an idea. It was something you lived through, something soft and delicate that needed to be embraced gently instead of grabbed quickly. The heavens had always kept their rhythm, and in their quiet constancy was the promise that people could remember, align, and find peace again. It was a vision of gentle change, a future that wasn't rushed, where the pulse of the universe could once again be felt in human hearts, quietly and calmly, like a celestial clock slowly turning to mark the days and nights. It was a quiet night, with soft shadows and bright spots of light covering the land like a blanket. Enoch looked up and saw the slow arcs of the sun, moon, and stars. He felt the subtle pulse of the eternal dance. Every move was planned, but it felt easy, like the universe was breathing in a quiet rhythm. The sun's warmth would fade into the gentle embrace of twilight. The moon would rise with silver patience, and the stars would shimmer with disciplined grace, each element entwined in an order older than memory. He imagined the celestial bodies as dancers moving in careful, soft steps, weaving a pattern of harmony that stretched across time, a rhythm that whispered the quiet truth of the cosmos. Enoch thought of the humans below, often unaware of the delicate choreography above. They rushed through the day and had trouble sleeping at night, but even though they didn't know it, the dance went on, gently guiding the world. The sun and moon's movements were not just ways to tell time. They were also gentle reminders of balance and the quiet rules that shape life without asking for attention. He felt a soft respect for the patience of the heavens, which kept their rhythm even when people were busy. This gave life a calm place to flow when it was noticed. The universe moved in a gentle, inevitable way, like a lullaby of light and shadow. Enoch knew that in these patterns was the soft pulse of guidance, a quiet call to remember. The moon, silver and calm, followed her every night, changing shape slightly but never changing its purpose. Her light was a soft touch, a quiet reminder of what had been lost and what could be found again. Enoch saw her phases as a mirror of human life, hope growing, understanding growing, despair fading, and renewal always coming after. Each movement was planned, but it was also kind. It wasn't harsh or commanding. It just kept going in a steady rhythm. The stars, like patient friends, kept their paths through the vast dark, never missing a beat. Their silent glow gave a sense of stability in a world that often felt broken and rushed. Enoch thought of the sun, which never stopped shining and always stayed warm as it traveled its arc. Its light bathed the world below in gentle waves, marking the passage of hours and days with an unchanging grace. The sun kept going on its way, even when clouds hid it from view. This was a quiet reminder that order is always there, even when we can't see it. The way light and shadow, day and night, and warm and cool worked together made a rhythm that echoed in the hearts of those who stopped to notice. It was a soft reflection of the larger cosmic order. It was a quiet lesson that life has its own harmony, and if you look at it with patience, you can follow it softly. Step by step, Enoch felt a calm understanding wash over him as he thought about these movements. The eternal dance was more than just a show in the sky. It was a mirror of the inner world and a guide for being patient, balanced, and quietly watchful. People had lost their way, but the universe kept going, gently guiding them with an invisible hand that shaped life with great care. He thought that if people slowed down enough to listen, they could feel the rhythm beneath the noise, the pulse beneath the distraction, and the gentle nudging of a universe that never rushed or asked for anything, but always stayed in line. There was meaning in even the faintest flicker of a distant star, the soft glow of twilight, and the gentle movement of the moon across the sky. They all spoke a language of balance without words. Enoch felt a deep peace knowing that this cosmic dance had been going on for a long time and was still going on. Time, not measured by clocks but by light and shadow, moved with a quiet confidence, showing the way to those who were open to it. The heavens whispered in a way that could calm people down, ease their tired minds, and bring back the sense of wonder that people often lose when things get rough. He imagined a world where this rhythm could be heard again, where days and nights flowed with purpose instead of chaos, and where people lived in harmony with the cycles above. The sun, moon, and stars all moved together in a bright dance that made people want to watch and think. Enoch knew that this dance, like a lullaby, was not only beautiful to look at, but also good for the soul. It was a reminder that harmony was out there, waiting for hearts to accept it. That night, when everything was quiet, Enoch's heart felt like it was in tune with the universe. The steady arcs of the sun and moon, the disciplined shimmer of the stars, and the patterns of celestial light all whispered the same soft message: life, like the heavens, could move with rhythm, patience, and care. There was no rush or need to hurry. Instead, there was a steady, quiet motion that could help, calm, and heal if you paid attention to it. The eternal dance went on, graceful and unbroken, like a cosmic lullaby for anyone who took a moment to look up, breathe, and feel its gentle flow. The night had turned into a deep, quiet velvet, and Enoch felt the weight of everything he had seen settle around him. The movements of the sun, moon, and stars, the gentle guidance of angels, and the rhythms of heaven and earth all came together in a calm harmony that filled the spaces between heartbeats. Every thread of light and shadow, every whisper of wind and rustle of leaves, held a memory of the cosmic order. It was a reminder that even when people were confused and forgot things, there was a pattern that was always there, steady and unhurried. Enoch's mind, which had been full of questions and the weight of revelation, was now at peace with the simplicity of being there, resting in the quiet rhythm that had always been there, waiting for someone to notice. He thought about the journey he had taken, from the dark, uncertain moments on earth to the bright, heavenly realms above, where the secrets of time and light unfolded like a soft tapestry. Every moment he had seen, every gate of the sun, every path of the moon, and every disciplined star had come together in a calm understanding that didn't need action or explanation, just gentle awareness. The world below was busy and restless, but Enoch felt a quiet sense of peace that these movements were not lost to chaos. The pulse of the heavens, steady and patient, ran through all of existence like a soft lullaby, calming everyone who could stop and feel it. He thought about how people sleeping under the night sky had soft faces and didn't know about the celestial dance above, but it still affected them in ways they couldn't see. A mother's hand resting on a child, a wheel slowly turning in a village, and a traveler stopping to look at the horizon all echoed the eternal rhythms, bringing peace to hearts that might otherwise be hurried and worried. In these quiet times, Enoch felt the full weight of grace and the gentle persistence of order. They were a gentle reminder that life could be lived softly, without struggle or tension, just by noticing and letting the rhythm flow through the soul. The angels moved quietly through the light-filled halls, always watching. Their presence was steady but not loud, like the slow rise and fall of breathing in the middle of the night. Their watchfulness wasn't harsh or intrusive. It was a quiet care that kept the dance going and the cycles of light going. Enoch felt a strong connection to this gentleness. He understood that true understanding didn't come from loud demands or urgent statements, but from watching patiently and letting the subtle harmonies of life settle into his heart. Even the stars, which were fixed and orderly, seemed to shine with a softer light, as if they knew that everything was coming to an end. They weren't far away or cold. They were there with them in the stillness, their light guiding without pressure and giving beauty without expecting anything in return. Enoch thought about their paths one last time, and he felt the gentle lessons of patience and consistency sink into his being. Every pattern and every course was a gentle lesson in balance, a calm rhythm that could be carried into everyday life. He thought of the moon, which had a silver glow that changed slowly and showed how people go through different phases of life. The waxing and waning, the quiet fullness and gentle decline were like emotions and seasons of life. They reminded him that everything moved in cycles and that even endings that seemed final were just pauses before new beginnings. These motions didn't need to be done quickly or with a lot of force. They flowed like a calm river, inviting people to watch, think, and gently align with them instead. Enoch let his mind wander back to the memories of the earth below, the preserved scrolls, the quiet watchers of light, and the communities that were in sync with the cosmic pulse, even if they weren't perfect. He felt a small, warm sense of gratitude for the heavens' patience, the guardians who kept their paths without complaint, and the small signs of harmony that still existed among people. He felt a quiet peace in his heart as he knew that there were hearts attuned to the soft guidance of the celestial dance. Even as the world slept in its uneven rhythm, the night got even quieter, with a huge area of soft shadow and gentle starlight. Enoch felt his awareness grow to include it all. It felt like every breath and heartbeat brought back memories of the light and motion he had seen. The dance of the sun, moon, and stars, the constant care of angels, and the changing of the seasons all came together to make a single slow-moving stream of life. It was a wordless lullaby, a gentle flow that washed away thoughts and worries, leaving only the soft hum of being. Enoch realized that the journey was not about mastering the universe or changing the world, but about noticing, feeling, and letting the rhythm flow through life in this last moment of stillness. The eternal dance went on, patiently and brightly, a quiet guide for anyone who could stop and see it. As the night wrapped around him like it did the earth, the stars above twinkled softly, as if to say, everything is fine, everything is calm, everything is in its right place. And so, in the quiet of the universe, with every light in its place and every movement perfectly timed, Enoch's heart found peace. Heaven and earth didn't seem so far away or out of reach anymore. They felt close, like a lullaby for the soul. Time, light, and life all moved together in a quiet way, like a slow, gentle beat that only needed you to be aware of it, to feel it. And in that gentle merging, all questions went away, all tension went away, and the world itself seemed to breathe softly and quietly into the eternal stillness.